Yeah, now we are in.
And cable. Can I try something, Luna? Maybe put everything together. No?
Yes, okay.
Because then all the cables are together and people are bigger than me. What do you think? Hello. Looks like that.
Adesso sono al secondo piano, se poi possiamo andare insieme, se c'è da dire. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning. Palazzo Bello. Yeah. Okay.
Can I help you with something?
Yes, we will see something of your art.
All right. We have here a symposium and then and upstairs is the exhibition.
Okay. And where can we get the stand?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't work here.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah. I think somebody upstairs. Okay. Gives you steps.
But this is now it's better because it stands for jetzt das Street. Wir gehen nicht irgendwo draufschauen. Okay, ist interessant.
Kann sie selber sind.
Eine Observation kann
Wie lange ist das? 10 Anleihen voll, oder? Insgesamt. Genau. Nicht mehr. Hier vorne. Hier vorne. Also erstmal jedes Mal rechts.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Once again, very welcome in Palazzo Bembo for the Roma Lepanto-Symposium. My name is Moritz Pankok and I welcome you in the name of Foundation Heidikas here at this beautiful palace. I'm very glad we can be here, and I have to thank the European Cultural Center for their technical help and for their hospitality to host us. It's really special that we get the space and that they help us with this. Firstly, I want to say who actually we are. Foundation Heidikas is a foundation based in Berlin. It was founded in the year 2020 and it followed the former gallery Heidikas, which was a commercial gallery specialized in the trading with the art of artists of Romani background. Since 2020, we work as a non-profit organization, as a non-profit foundation, and on the one hand, our foundation supports projects of Roma and Sinti in the cultural field. It also supports publications, it supports exhibitions, but its main aim is to create a collection of contemporary art which has came into existence since the beginning of Galerie Heidikas in 2011. We have since then organized around 120 exhibitions in Berlin and abroad. And for every show, somehow we bought an artwork. So we created an art collection, and we realized over the time that this is a very important document and a very important thing documenting the culture of artists of Sinti and Roma background and beyond. Our foundation is working internationally. Our artists come from all across Europe, but also from abroad. from the Americas, or I know that we have today Daria Kanti with us from Uzbekistan. So Sinti and Roma are living all over the world, and we want to open this view on Romani culture also internationally. For this symposium, we were creating a new list of our artworks in the collection, and actually I can say we have more than 300, actually around 340 artworks which are part of the Kaidikas collection, and so we can say that this is the largest collection of this kind documenting contemporary art of Sinti and Roma. With this, the foundation Kaidikas wants kind of to help, because there is a big lack of institutions documenting the culture of Sinti and Roma. There is a lack of documentation and archives which are taking care for these arts. And so we are a very small foundation, but I think if you concentrate on something very specific, then even if you're a small foundation, you can do a lot. This collection is meant to become part of a future museum, and this museum can be in Germany or anywhere across Europe. We are looking for a place where this collection will be visible to the public, where it can serve as a source of research for scholars and for Romani artists of this background, for their inspiration, and we want to promote positive role models and show what quality of art there is existing within this field, and give a very broad view of this, because the art collection is not only about paintings, which you would imagine as fine art, but it includes also installations, video art, digital art, sculptures, so actually performative arts, performance arts. So actually it includes all the different media you can imagine, and you can see also from this the great variety of what we find. With this, we don't want to construct a label as Roma art, and I think also from the diversity of countries, of artists which are included in this exhibition you have seen upstairs, but also from the media which are included in our collection, you can see that there can't be a simplifying label like this, because we are a very diverse community, and therefore the contributions, they have different languages, they have different shapes and different colors. So we don't want to construct a uniform way. However, we think that the artists are core of a political movement of emancipation and self-determination of Romani culture and of Roma. So actually it is something which is contributing to a new political position of Roma ethnicities within Europe, of the different groups who are working together and collaborating, and we try to encourage this meeting and exchange of different groups through our exhibitions and events, and I think it's great that we can welcome here today a very special group of artists from the, let's say, Kaidikas family, who are here with us today. Luna de Rosa, Manolo Gomez, Kalman Baradi, and Daniel Baker is with us, and online Daria Kanti and Brun Mores, who you see next to me actually in the image. You will be one of the first speakers today. Yes, I also welcome Mr. Romani Rose, who is the head of the Central Council of Sinti and Roma in Germany and the head of the Documentation Center and Cultural Center of German Sinti and Roma in Heidelberg. He's here with his colleague André Raj. Thank you that you did all this journey, and I have to thank everybody who's here and who's with us online for the coming contributions and for the long journeys you took on you to be part of this. I think with Roma Lepanto and our symposium, we have a very specific demand, and I think it's very good that we are coming together to exchange our ideas and to exchange our demands, to actually formulate a common demand for the visibility of the contemporary art of Sinti and Roma. Yes, I think now we come to the bridge, actually. Miguel Vargas Rubio from Sevilla and myself, we curated this exhibition. So why actually did we choose such a historical theme for our exhibition topic, and what actually is the root of this? So what do we know what has happened 1571?
Okay, Macho Dives, buongiorno, buenos días, good morning, guten Tag. Well, we have to say that everything started with an intuition by my dear friend Moritz, that there must be something behind that big history of this battle that we don't know. With the limited time that we had, I did a kind of simple research, or at least kind of stay of the task. Then I realized, okay, I'm from Sevilla, South Spain. I grew up in a very Catholic environment. And then I realized that almost every church in Spain has a painting of the Battle of Lepanto. And we have been educated in the idea that Cervantes, the writer, presented himself as a hero of the Lepanto battle, that he lost his left arm. Then I realized also that there is almost no record, no mention to names of Roma participating. Well, if we say participating is unfair, because they wouldn't, and we are sure that they wouldn't want to participate as slaves. But what we do know are two things, and that these two things are important for our purpose. The first is that Roma were part of the compound, the mob chusma, which is a word from Napoli, which means like the left, or over people like the trash. So Roma were part of this enslaved force that pushed the big galleys. In the case of the Spanish army, they were part of that. But we don't know their names because they were somehow erased, forgotten. Okay? And the second thing that we have learned, and it's a chance for future research, is that the battle was depicted, narrated as a new crusade. That's the reason why it was used as one of the first biggest media campaigns across Europe and beyond. And not only at the time, not only in the moment, but even until 20th century. I have to remind you that Franco, the dictator of Spain, made a replica of the galleon of Don Juan de Austria, the commander of the Spanish army. And that was in 1971, the 400th anniversary of the battle. So imagine how present the heroic vision of the battle was in the Spanish context. So, why is it important that we Roman historians, Roma artists, choose a historical big battle or a big occasion, because we need to question that grandness. We need to question that behind these big narrations are lives that have been erased, forgotten, eliminated. So we need to put us as the center, not only as victims, because what is strange but at the same time interesting is that we have Roma lives in both sides of the battle, and they were not conscious that they were Roma on the other side of the battle. So it's a moment in which our lives enter history, and with this I mean that we are forced to be reunited. As in other moments of the European big history, Roma of different origins have been forced to meet, to share a space. In this case, or in the Holocaust, in different moments of history, most of these moments are violent moments of history. Roma has been forced to, Roma of different nationalities, different backgrounds have been forced to meet. Now, it's a chance. Since 20th century, since 1971 until today, we have had the chance of meeting for a different purpose, no? For questioning not only history or the history that has been told in our name, but without us, but also to build a different possibility, a different way of narrating the history of Europe. And I think I will leave it here because this is the important point that I want to state, which is questioning the big European history from a Romani perspective gives us the possibility of having our own history. That history is beyond the borders of Europe, because we have been a nation before entering Europe. Okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, so we do have some things about the historical facts of the battle, but I think what Miguel just said is more important, and our exhibition is not an historical exhibition as such, but we can say it would be worth if people would research this, because there is things to find. So we think that there were 300 rowers of Romani background from Spain, and it was the beginning of a longer persecution, because actually it turned out for the Spanish that it was actually very handy to create rowers for the galleas through capturing Romani people, that it actually became a law. And it was that a few years later, it was 10% of all the rowers of the Spanish fleet were of Romani origin. So there are indications about this, and you can see that it's actually the beginning of a long persecution in Spain, which was marked by the time from 1570 and 1571 by Felipe II. Yes. So this is very important, and even in Venice, which is now this very beautiful city, and we are here in one of the most beautiful palaces and traditional houses of all of Venice, in the city center, the Roma should have a part, and they are part of Venice as they are part of Europe, and the story of Lepanto is proof for this, and this is what we want to tell also to our audience here in Venice. Now, our first person who is talking is waiting already online. This is Bruno Moraes. He is an artist from Brazil, living right now in Bremen, in Germany. He is artist of Caritas and has contributed largely to our collection with his installation Reflections. I'm very proud that you choose us as the home for your installation, Reflections. Brun Moraes confronts the dominant representation of Roma identities through inverted sentences and quotations from decolonial methodologies, both in his anthropological research and in his art installations made of mirrors. His multi-part installation Reflections combines contemporary art and academic concepts in a series of installations that invite us to reflect on subalternity, marginalization, intersectionality, and standpoint theory. Reflections is based on the reading of Can the Subaltern Speak by the Indian author, scholar, literary theorist, and feminist critic Gayatri Spivak. This is from 1985, which proposes a very important reading in the context of post-colonial studies. Against the universalism of economic Western culture, Moraes develops an expressive power based on the pluriversalism of Roma identity. In Roma Lepanto, Moraes uses an interactive installation from his series Reflections, in which quotes of decolonial theorists only become readable through mirrors. One, stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Moritz, for the introduction. I would say that I would update the correctly state of my research. I would update this abstract about this piece. But first of all, I'd like to say good morning and thank you for the opportunity. And I would like also to start say how honored I am for taking part of this project, RĽOMA Lepanto. Yes, unfortunately, I couldn't be in presence for this conference in Palácio Bambu. I talk at the moment from RºOMA University, and here I'm part of the GIACAC Traditional Studies. Where I work with my doctoral research. And my research articulates post-colonial critique to bring into academic debate the relationship among Roma families and the educational system. And for that reason, I could not be present for the event that honor Roma cultures, values, and representativities. Nevertheless, I salute the audience online and the presence, besides take the opportunity to thank the organizers for this great opportunity. So for this short intervention, I set aside a few reflections. So for this year, Venice Biennale, I made this new piece that is based on an art collection from 2021 called Reflections, as was informed by Moritz. The Battle of Lepanto is a historical event that was crucial for the existence of the European continent as we know it today. The Battle of Lepanto does not represent a nationalist victory against an invading enemy, but the European values against the colonial Ottoman Empire. For me, as a Roma, one information between the lines about this battle stands out. Roma fighting against Roma, as was mentioned before. Colonial narratives justifies the contradictory finding. Another relevant information part of the battle is about who owns the narrative about slavery, colonialism. Contrary to what is commonly believed and spread toward colonial underdogs, part of the global colonial narrative, enslavement is not restricted to any ethnic or racial profiling. Enslavement refers to some repugnant practice, part of colonialism. Colonialism cannot be reduced to a system, not it can be identified as a method of situated liberty. Colonialism is also a collective normative construction and imposition. Enslavement of people, invasion of other countries, and genocides are not limited only to the act of violence itself. Relies also in ways in which this practice are morally spread, institutionalized, and replicated in different global contexts. Cultural mockery has affected Roma cultures since many centuries ago. Still today, the mentioned cultural mockery is noted when Roma perspectives during the Battle of Lepanto is lacking in learning for materials, for example. The colonial strategy is to suppress our agency, trajectory, and narratives. The Italian government refuses to finance the Roma Pavilion is a colonial outrage against our Roma cultures. The Roma Pavilion aims to bring our people, all possibilities about us, together. Those are moments we dance, exchange ideas, and learn from and with each other. the colonial interests that have been erased since 2022. Roma do not wage war. I took notes doing ethnography in Portuguese Roma archive that many Roma who fought in colonial wars deserted as soon as they arrived at that destination, because the Roma people thought that war unfair. I invite my audience to reflect with me. Where are those stories, part of many Roma archives in Europe, that are not in learning materials in schools and universities? Why our perspectives are not considered? What part of history has been hidden to preserve colonial narratives? He Writes History is about those narratives. Roma Lepanto brings visibility for Roma history in art, but it's time to reflect about Roma narrative as part of official discourses. My artistic work in Roma Lepanto addresses the colonial symbol side. That's the background to affirm that the absence of a Roma pavilion in the Venice Biennale 2024 is unstable. The absence of Roma pavilion is colonial and affects Roma cultures and Roma lives connected transnationally. This attempt at erasures goes hand in hand with colonial methods. Roma Lepanto is precisely problematized. Against the erasure of history in the present, I would like to express my deep gratitude to ERIAC and Caicas Foundations for making Roma Lepanto possible. Without Roma solidarity, our history would once again be made unrecognizable. Nationalist aspirations, which in contemporary society have shown once again how dangerous and violent colonial methods are, represents a wave that must be stopped. I'm grateful for the part of Roma Lepanto because it demonstrates the strength of Roman discourses, and along this exhibition is reminded Roma importance for European history. Art is a possible method to find peace. Peace in the name of education, art, and culture. And this is the message that Roma people contribute for. This is the message missing in the minds of colonialists worldwide. Our cultures and perspectives have not been forgotten. Our narratives have not been wiped out, and our existence will be not neglected. Realizing our coexistence among the differences and discourses that make our point of view relevant in times of global crisis, that the Roman discourses and narratives resist. We have survived colonial wars, we have survived enslavement, and we will surely survive the fragile attempt at cultural erasure and genocide that keeps cultural genocides that keep targeting us. Despite the pavilion absence, Roma cultural discourse resist is standing. As we resisted our presence in the past, we keep resisting our existence today. Our values, our cultures, and our people are too precious to be neglected. Thank you, and RřejOMA.
Yeah, thank you, Bruno. Excellent. Thank you. I think with your installation, you bring a very own layer to our exhibition, and I think it's super important. And I'm very thankful also to Maria to inspire you to this artwork with her quote, because it's from Lisbon.
Yes, thank you for the reminder. Yes, this quotation came from my interview I did in 2021 for my master's dissertation, and there was this quotation talking about history with a single side, and history. So that's the quotation. It comes from this very learning interview I did with Romani activists in Portugal. Work with my academic research. So this is also very present in this collection Reflections. It's also now part of my proposed decoloniality in methods, bring to academia the discussion and the debate about culture through art as method. And so thinking decoloniality as a method to deal with this recurrent colonial narratives and impositions.
Yes, I'm looking forward to read later your thesis. So we don't want to take more time of you because of this, but I hope you can stay with us. Yes, and we go ahead here. still exactly in time. Now we have someone here who's in presence, which is Dr. Daniel Baker. Daniel Baker is artist, curator, and art theorist, a Romani Gypsy born in Kent. He holds a PhD in Roma aesthetics from the Royal College of Art in London, Gypsy visuality, Alfred Jarrett's art nexus and its potential for artists, and it was in 2011 when he wrote this. And he was awarded his MA by the University of Greenwich in 2002 by our friend Professor Thomas Acton, I suppose. Baker was an exhibitor and advisor to the first and second Roma Pavilion, to Paradise Lost and Call the Witness at the 52nd and the 54th edition of the Venice Biennial, as well as to one of the most important British art shows featuring Romani artists Elaine Lebar, Gail Lebas, and Ferdinand Kochi. It was Second Sight in 2006, curated by Thomas Acton, and I think this inspired very much following first Roma Pavilion in 2007. Baker's work examines the role of art in the enactment of social agency, and an early published statement of this position was part of the Meet Your Neighbors Contemporary Art, Roma Art from Europe from 2006 collection, and in the Paradise Lost catalogue from 2007. This work is held in public and private collections around the world, including the British Museum and the Tishman Speyer collection in New York, and also I'm very glad that you're part of Heidi Kass' collection. Daniel,
Thank you, Moritz and Miguel. It's great to be here, and thank you all for coming along today. It's very nice to see you so many. So, as Moritz said, my name is Daniel Baker, and I'm an artist and a Romani. My practice comprises making, curating, and writing, a three-part methodology that I developed during my PhD research into Roma aesthetics. The main aim of my work is to examine the role of artistic practice in the enactment of social agency. I do this via the investigation and reconfiguration of aspects of Gypsy visuality, using my own studio practice as an instrument and analysis and interpretation. So my art making is kind of integral to my whole research process. My interest in the mechanisms and applications of visuality within Roma culture emerged during the completion of my MA dissertation titled The Queer Gypsy in 2001, which examined the experience of LGBTQ+ Romani people across the UK. This was the first ever study of LGBTQ+ Romani people ever. Key themes that emerged during my research concerned the invisibility of the Roma body in society and the corresponding mutabilities of identity that this facilitated. The stories of compromised visibility that I learned from the interviewees led on to my doctoral research into Gypsy visuality, which set out to examine the network of social relations that surround Gypsy visual culture, the main aim being to identify key elements of the Roma aesthetic and determine the meanings therein. The lack of any formal analysis of Romani visual culture was a key factor in determining my research path. Although this absence was surprising to me, given the very visual nature of Roma life, I realized that this absence was but an echo of the absence of Roma from the national narratives which society chooses to tell itself. Furthermore, this absence of attention highlighted a direct relationship between cultural visibility and social agency for Roma, and prompted me to find out more about the role of visuality within Roma communities. My subsequent research into the function and the implications of Roma visual culture led to my introduction of the concept of Roma aesthetics as an idea which I consider to be more useful than thinking about Roma art in isolation. My own art practice has changed dramatically since I began to research the visual culture of my community. Just as examining my own experience of growing up as a gay man within a Romani community had informed my queer Gypsy research, so growing up within a Romani home informed my study of visual culture for Romanism, enabling me a privileged viewpoint on the ways in which decor and the trappings of daily life both narrate and inform the Gypsy experience. Some of the most vivid memories of my childhood home are the collections of ornamented crockery, which were displayed in glass cabinets with decorated mirror panels, allowing the objects to be seen reflected from all sides at once, in a kaleidoscope of symbol and narrative. Through my research, it became clear to me that our family home and the homes of our kin were engines of artistic agency, and that the decor and objects that populated these spaces performed multiple roles and generated multiple meanings in terms of acculturation, artistic nourishment, cultural narrative, and pragmatic functionality. My research would go on to show this multi-sidedness to be a common factor within Roma history, within Roma artistry, and within the Roma aesthetic. These themes were explored in a show which I was invited to curate in 2007, titled No Gorgeous. This exhibition formed the basis of my doctoral research and will prove to be a touchstone throughout my work to date. My studio practice was employed as both a method of analysis and a means of interpretation of a number of the artworks displayed in this exhibition. My findings allow me to determine the workings and the possibilities of a Roma aesthetic. No Gorgeous artworks included painted panels from caravan interiors, fabric flowers, patchwork quilts, knitted blankets, and customized tools and toys, as recognized the art-like objects such as painting, collage, photography, and ceramics. The artist responded to an open call for makers from the Gypsy Roma traveller communities in the UK, and as such, the artworks can be seen as a grassroots response to the notion of art making within the community. This was the intention of the project, to look at the everyday creativity of the community rather than the artistic practice as a separate entity. My analysis showed that the paraphernalia of rural life and domesticity were frequently represented in the No Gorgeous artworks and combined to draw strong associations with nature and freedom, as well as family life and community. A number of the objects exhibited a versatility which enabled them to perform multiple tasks simultaneously, as evidenced in a combination of functionality and ornamentation. Modes of manufacture often displayed eclectic and resourceful inventiveness. An exaggerated opulence was also routinely in evidence, conveyed through the use of overt ornamentation and the use of materials which display shiny and flashing qualities. Another effect of the shiny surface was to draw attention. This was also achieved through the juxtaposition of clashing texture, pattern, and colour to produce eye-catching effects which captivate the attention of the viewer and at the same time distract and divert. Some objects offer the user multiple roles to perform. The ambiguity of these artifacts reflects the polyvalent nature of Roma visuality and its potential to influence behaviour, and in so doing articulate a set of relations that to me seem to characterise Roma cultural agency. My analysis also identified a number of dualities evident within the Roma aesthetic, including a concurrency of display and concealment, attraction and diversion, the ornamental and the effect. Qualities also included showiness, shininess, discordant, multi-sidedness, and multifunctionality. So here I was determining kind of what we could describe as a Roma aesthetic, which, as I mentioned, has gone on to influence much of the work that I make, both the writing and the art making. What started to become clear from my finding was that Roma artistic practice has been shaped by some degree in response to the circumstances within which many Roma communities continue to exist. Circumstances characterized by an extended state of emergency, which have, by necessity, encouraged the integration of artistic practice into the functioning and rituals of everyday life. This integration of art and life becomes clearer when we consider that all objects carried by a traveling community are required to perform multiple roles, prompting a blurring of boundaries, which has resulted in a multivalency born of a need to combine and condense a variety of matter and ideas into a functioning entity. Such integration continues to mark the intimate connection between functionality and artistry within Roma culture. In line with this pragmatic perspective, decor has traditionally been employed as the primary vehicle of artistic and social agency for Roma. The Venturist continues to privilege the role of the social within Roma artistic practices. These ideas were further developed in 2019 during Future Roma. the third Roma exhibition at the Venice Biennale. This project went on to consider the dynamics that underpin a number of relationships, including the links between the traditional and the contemporary, between domestic and professional artistic practices, and between individual archives and state collections. The project sought to examine how hierarchies of practice, collecting, and dissemination can otherwise be thought of as emblematic of the relationship between the marginal and the elite, and asked how art that is embedded within the social can help bridge the widening disconnect between the art world and daily life. If we consider that Roma have historically given little attention or attachment to the concept of art as a separate entity in and of itself, then this helps to account for the seemingly indistinct definition between life and art for Roma. Accordingly, the relationship between Roma aesthetics and Roma daily life can be understood as a cycle whereby experience, interpretation, and depiction intimately correspond to inform each other. It is within this cycle that the blurring of the boundary between Roma artistic practice and the everyday practice of living occurs, thus encouraging both life and art to influence each other directly. The Future Roma project also prompted wider questions regarding the recalibration of structures of value and markers of worth within the art world, to offer new ways of rethinking wider mechanisms of separation. By looking into the relationship between marginal artistic practices and those that form the centre ground, we can find new ways of thinking about relationships between marginalised peoples and mainstream society. When we are encouraged to look again at such practices, we look again at the people that have generated them. In this way, the artwork acts as an extension of the artist, who in turn acts as an extension of their community. Through re-evaluating such objects, we are motivated to re-evaluate their makers and therefore the cultures from which they emerge. Another example of such re-evaluation can be seen in One Day We Shall Celebrate Again, RĽOMA at Document 15. This was a collaborative project with Offenari Budapest area and RĽOMA. Its aim being to examine the possibilities of Roma Museum of Contemporary Art and how the uncanonized cultural heritage and contemporary art by artists of Roma origin could be presented in an exhibition setting where there has been no systematic attempt to support institutions dedicated to this task. Here again, my three-part methodology of making, curating, and writing became instrumental for my contribution to the project, which comprised the commission of an installation concept and the display of existing artwork titled Survival Blanket. As well as collaborating on the joint curation of the exhibition space, I also exhibited items from my own collections, including some artworks from the No Borders project a number of years earlier. My installation concept intended to unify the main exhibition hall with satellite elements situated throughout the rest of the Frederikiana. The installation comprised two parts. First was titled Shadow Diagram and was a response to the main exhibit in the central hall, an artwork titled Birth by Tomasz Paley. This is an epic history painting which charts the evolution of Roman people through mythology, the real-time events and aspirations which have shaped Roman history. Shadow Diagram mirrored the painting in its four parts to provide an expansive four-part blackboard where visitors could draw their own myths, experiences, and hopes in white chalk on the floor. The participatory, playful, and fleeting qualities of the work were enacted through the temporary nature of the materials involved, and the constant erasure and application of words and images by visiting public were combined to palimpsestic effect. The second part of the installation also employed chalk, but this time to link the 6 scattered elements of the exhibition. This was done by using patrons. Patrons were historically used as an ephemeral marker made of grass, leaves, or twigs, left by gypsies to indicate the direction taken or denote whether a particular landowner was hospitable or otherwise. To mark the elements of the installation, I produced a family of 6 patrons that were intended to be spontaneous, gestural, coded, and simple. These Each was formed of a variety of configurations of circles and lines, each individual patron acting as a single component, which when combined produced an icon which resembled a wheel, a ship's helm, or a compass. The individual patrons were drawn at the 6 dispersed exhibition locations to denote the diasporic nature of the exhibition as a whole. So the individual work that I showed of an existing piece of work was titled Survival Blanket. This is one of the dispersed locations within the Friedrichiana. This work is influenced by my encounters with and my readings of the people and the artifacts that I've come into contact with during my inquiries into Roma artistic practice. This is part of my emergency artifact series, which combines my fascination with domestic art practice with qualities of the Roma aesthetic. By employing the materiality of the foil emergency blanket, usually intended for use in extreme circumstances, with a seemingly banal realm of domestic hobbycraft, my intention is to explore the precarious nature of safety and comfort that many of us take for granted. The slow process of making is embodied and indexed in the object, and juxtaposed with the optics of emergency paraphernalia, combining to highlight questions about the nature of time and its implications for the ways in which we understand states of crisis, which are usually understood as acute emergencies rather than chronic sufferings. Here, the disposability of the materials is transformed into the routinely durational rather than the randomly fleeting. These works also bring to mind the process of recycling, whereby the unwanted is transformed into something of value, a connection that has further resonance for me as my father was a scrap metal dealer. As well as drawing upon the conservational activities that are present within and throughout Roma domestic and economic practices, these works also draw upon the showy qualities that underpin the Roma aesthetic, to speak of the contingent nature of the Roma experience, where safety and stability are continually at risk. This artwork will be exhibited at the Institute of Chicago this year as part of the upcoming exhibition titled Project A Black Planet, the Art and Culture of Pan-Africa. My 3-part methodology has informed my participation in a number of initiatives that I have been involved with, including the first and second Roma pavilions at the Venice Biennale, curated by Timea Junghaus and Maria Clavajola respectively, and the decade-long Gypsy Maker program that I developed with Isaac Blake, director of the Roma Arts Company in Wales, as my role as mentor to the GRT artists we have commissioned to produce new works, which expand the breadth of Roma knowledge and the innovative artistry that comprise our cultural capital. Thank you.
Yeah. We knew why we put Brunn and Daniel together with their very sharp analysis. Thank you for that, Daniel. Thank you for coming here, joining us. Next is also an important theorist, and I'm just happy because he just joined in from Istanbul. With us is Dr. Adrian Marsh. We see right now Brunn Moraes, but there should be also Adrian. So maybe we have to change the window a bit. Okay, good. So Adrian Marsh is a Romani traveler origin like you from UK. He's a researcher in Romani studies and an expert consultant in Romani and traveler early years education, working with Romani, Gypsy and traveler communities and NGOs in the UK, Sweden, Turkey, Egypt, and across Central, Eastern and Southeastern Europe. He gained a PhD in Romani studies from the University of Greenwich in London in 2008, and an MA in Southeast European and Turkish area studies from the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London in 1998, and was awarded a BA first-class honors degree in East European history at the School of Slavonic and East European Studies, University College of London in 1996, where he won the Andrew Ferguson Memorial Prize for his dissertation on royal women and power in the Ottoman Empire in 1996. So I'm really pleased to have Adrian with us, who is a real expert in Romani history and who can give us also a different perspective. We have the Western European, the Spanish, the Venetian perspective on the Battle of Lepanto, but I'm sure Adrian will tell us another story, another side of history, in order that we get the right picture, because the one-sided history is confabulation, as Brun says. So Adrian, thank you for joining us, and I hope that actually Zoom works with us and Adrian becomes visible now. Thank you.
I hope so. Good morning to you all. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. Just to add, if I may, I'm also now currently a professor at the School of Education at ADA University in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is recent. What I would like to do is two things. One is I'd like to just pick up a little very quickly, on things that Danny was talking about. As a young person, I dropped out of school at 14 and went to work in the family business, which was sign painting, wagon painting fairground rides, carousels, all these kind of things, doing shop fronts, doing lorries, all this kind of stuff. And again, that was a process of art as function and as a means of both demonstrating creativity, but also, of course, as a means of fulfilling an economic function, i.e. advertising. So I have that kind of past as well. And the working with the family business was something I did from 1976 to 1980. Okay, let me get to the question of the Ottoman Romanlar, which is the modern word. It's the modern self-identification of the communities in Turkey, in the Republic, and it is a designation which they've been hard-pressed to push because of various different prejudices amongst Turkish people, but not in the same way as there is a kind of massive hostility in Central Eastern Europe or even in the UK. However, there is a limit to how Turkish people perceive Romani identity and Romani people to be. They can be seen as dancers, musicians, all of which are highly celebrated, even in Turkish television, where you have shows like Look Who Is Dancing or Cennet Mahalle and various other different Turkish shows. They tend to be very stereotypical, but they are at least showcasing Romanlar people on Turkish mainstream TV. If we look back to 1571, which is when we are concerned with, what we find is that amongst the defters, the records, taxation records and things of the Ottoman Empire at this point in time, and at this point in time, the Ottoman Empire is approximately its widest, biggest before it achieves in the early 17th century, its most wide extent, but this is the point at which it is most successful. We're talking about just post the reign of Suleiman, and only Suleiman the Magnificent, as he's known in the West. And we're talking about the year in which, prior to the Battle of Lepanto, as in May, spring 1571, the Ottomans had conquered Cyprus. And interestingly, the reason I bring it up is because the major troop body that was involved in conquering Cyprus were the Chingene and Kupti. These are the historical terms. Of course, they are problematic if you use them in the present, but if you're going to track down who we are in the Ottoman Empire in the past, you need to be aware. But Romani people were the major shock troops. They were the major military cohorts that were used to conquer Cyprus. They were led by Alevi officers. These are Shia. These are the Alevi communities that are still present in Anatolia, not Sunni, and also Crimean Tartars. The reason why is because there was an unwillingness amongst the Sunni, the Orthodox Sunni elite officers in the Ottoman army, the Sanjak Beys and Beyler Beys, etc., to command the Çingeneler and Kupti. Kupti is translated directly from Egyptian. Çingeneler is a word that derives from the notion of returning from somewhere further east than the Ottoman Empire. It's in China, basically. It's a mistaken identity, of course, but it's one that gained traction in the Ottoman Empire for most of the empire's existence. So we're talking about a group of people who are a major part of the Ottoman military forces and successfully conquered new lands, i.e. Cyprus. I should also mention that the militaries of near where I used to live, which is the foundry where they were creating chains, muskets, all kinds of weaponry, swords, etc. The Roman young blacksmiths were very, very famous for their skills in producing weaponry. And in other parts of Istanbul, on the outskirts in Kayatane, where there was a gunpowder factory, where the Romani people were there producing gunpowder, which was, and these two functions were ones where they were taking on outside of Istanbul, also in the other Ottoman kind of capitals, regional capitals, which existed like Kayseri or Edirne or elsewhere. So we're talking about communities that are of the Ottoman state machine and the Ottoman state military machine. They were also part of other parts of the Ottoman Empire, but we don't have time to go into that at the moment. But very much famous for their playing music to the Ottoman courts and dances, etc. But let's focus on the military aspects. So we're talking about a group of people who were successfully deployed in the conquest of Cyprus some 5-6 months before the Battle of Lepanto. And they were then in the Battle of Lepanto. And as in Cyprus, they were of course fighting on both sides. The Venetians had hired companies, which is where we get the word company, companies of Cimini, gypsies, as they were called, and Romani people. And these people were fighting for small groups of families, internet, kinship networks, who had a military function. So they were on the Venetian side. They were also, as I said, an integral part of the Ottoman side. And the military function in the Ottoman side didn't just extend to either being soldiers commanded by Tartars or Alevi officers, or makers of gunpowder and makers of weaponry and preparers of weaponry. There were many, many Romani people who were there as fletchers making harrow. They were there as tent makers and repairers. They were there as bakers. They were there very much present in there in horses as grooms and as horse breeders and horse traders to the military, etc., etc. So there was a big part for Romani people in the Ottoman military machine. And I think it's important to recognize that because it's often said Romani people have never been engaged, or we haven't. From Scotland to the Ottoman Empire to Venice to various other places. We've been an integral part of the military, and we began as military people. We began as the Gulam of the Ghaznavid Empire, Western Ghaznavid Empire, between 997 and 1030. So we've always been an integral part of military organisation, and we've been integral warriors. The interesting thing is what's happened since the early 20th century when we've become a decapitated military society, effectively. So we have a group of people, they are very much present at the Battle of Lepanto. The notion is often promoted that at the Battle of Lepanto, the Romani people were there as slaves, as galley slaves. That's not true. It's an inaccurate representation. Whilst I'm not suggesting that there weren't any Romani people who were there as galley slaves, galley slaves in the Ottoman Navy were almost all, they were captured and they were set to work. All they were criminals who'd committed usually a capital crime which was transmuted. So if they'd been murderers, etc., they were sentenced to death, but then that was transmuted into being galley slaves, which was a slightly longer sentence to death, if you like. But the primary engine of the galleys, which the Ottomans were using, was not Romani people. The Romani people were there as a military force on the ships, as kind of marines, if you like, still led by Tartars and Crimean Tartars and Alevi officers. But they were there to fight, they weren't there to row. So that's an important thing, I think, to remember. The defeat itself has been hugely overblown in Western historiography, particularly Catholic historiography. It was a defeat, there's no denying it was a defeat for the Ottomans. However, it did not stop or reverse the conquest of Cyprus. And the Ottomans were able to rebuild their entire fleet within a year, which shows you the kind of resources they could deploy. So in 1572, the Ottomans were able to field again a navy which successfully beat the Catholic alliances in the shores off Greece. So this was a victory which was very short-lived and did not achieve its aim, which was to free Cyprus, would lead to the freeing of Cyprus and stop the capture of Crete, which of course did happen somewhat later down the line. It was not the military reversal, but it's painted in the literally painted in the sense of these enormous canvases that you see in Catholic churches in many places. There was a retreat and there was loss, and there were loss of life, of course, on both sides, but particularly on the Ottoman side. But it didn't reverse either the position of Roman people within the Ottoman forces. The major defeat, both for Ottoman forces and for a reversal of the fortunes in war of the Ottoman Empire, and for the place of Ottoman Romani people, both the military, I forgot to mention, they're also part of the Meter. That's the military band that used to advance before forces, but that's to do with the land army rather than the navy. But it's outside the walls of Vienna in 1683 at the hands of the Viennese and the Polish, when large numbers of Romani people were captured and then kind of incorporated into Austrian society. Eventually became, the bakers eventually became an integral part of Austrian bakery and converted sinnets, which are those kind of crescent-shaped cakes, into Brussels. So Lepanto must be seen in the context of being, yes, a defeat, but not the kind of major reversal of Ottoman fortunes. And I think it's a mistake to see it as the grand victory, but it's wanting to be painted in Christian historiography, or in even standard Western European historiography, which of course looks westward and has this European bias. The Ottomans, as far as they were concerned, it was a setback, but it wasn't one that they took very seriously, in the sense that they rebuilt the navy, they reorganized their forces, and they were able to deploy them, and they went on to conquer even more territory in terms of the Grecian islands, particularly Crete. And it wasn't until 1683, outside the walls of Vienna, when the Ottomans really did suffer a major setback, which started the reversal and the long decline of the Ottoman Empire. So Roman people had a central point in the Ottoman navy, both as producers of weaponry, chains, etc. They had a central part as marines, as warriors who fought. They were an integral part of the Ottoman military machine in the production of gunpowder, etc. And interestingly, unlike the other parts of the Ottoman military machine, they were organized ethnically.
May you slow down a bit for the translators?
Legal role.
Adrian, please slow down slightly for the translators, please.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you, but it's brilliant what you said.
They were the Ottoman Romani people, the Chikin and the Kupti. They were the only units that were organized ethnically up until the late 19th century, when the Ottoman military organized the Kurds under Abdul Hamid into the Hamidullah, the Kurdish units, who, of course, in the late 19th century were the ones who were responsible, by and large, for the destruction in 1894, 1896 of Armenian communities in the Black Sea region, and then, of course, 1950 in the genocide of Armenians in what was by then the Turkish Republic. So until that point, the late 19th century, the Romani people in the Ottoman military machine represented, not an anomaly, but they represented unusual. It goes back to the Umayyads, which is, of course, a very long time before. Back in the 7th and 8th centuries, the Umayyads had organized their Muslim army on an ethnic basis to maintain a kind of Arab aristocracy and leadership. And the Ottomans took that when it came to working with different ethnicities, and when it came to working with the Chinganala and the Kupti, they organized them ethnically. Now that goes back to the idea of, was there a legal difference between Ottoman Romani people who were Muslim, Ottoman Romani people who were Christian, and the wider society? And the answer is yes, there was. There was a legal differentiation. It wasn't based on ethnicity initially, it was based on the fact that come in the context of Byzantium by the Ottomans. They come in as dancers and musicians. Now, I'm sure you know, under Islam, dancers, musicians, they are people who are not considered to be proper Muslims. They are seen as somehow lacking, somehow slippery in their identities. And there's a lot of discrimination against dancers and music. And at various points in Ottoman history, the ulema, the Muslim kind of, what were originally the Prophet's companions, but the kind of governing body of mullahs and imams, they carry out these kind of persecutions of entertainers throughout Ottoman history. There are these points where dancers and musicians have to go underground, as it were. So that identity, which they come in strongly with in the early Ottoman Empire, then hangs over them, and they're treated as second-class legal citizens. Their testimony in court cases doesn't value as much as a full Muslim, as is seen. And that then transmutes into the whole notion of who and what are the Çingeneler. Are they proper Muslims? Are they seen as people who can be trusted in the same way that other Muslims in Ottoman society can be? There is very little direct discrimination or even legal discrimination up until the end of the 16th century. The end of the classical period of the Ottoman Empire sees a greater penetration of European ideas, particularly around the notions of gypsies. And as more travellers come to visit the Ottoman Empire, as it moves into that place of the kind of tulip empire, when it starts to influence Europe through its fabrics and fashions, through horse chestnuts and fruits and vegetables, this kind of cultural influences. And we get Bright Pavilion, for example, being built, or we get a style which is a direct influence in the 17th century. That's the point at which we get European travellers, and they bring with them notions which are much harder, much more prejudicial about who the gypsies are. So when they see Ottoman gypsies, these are the people like we have in Romania or Bulgaria, or, well, not Romania, because of course that was ruled by semi-independent, but ruled by the Ottomans through the Greek Florins. But European notions come in and start affecting how the Ottomans, as a government, look at different populations. And it's when the beginning of Ottoman Orientalism happens. That notion that there are certain populations who are both not reliable, Armenians of course, Kurds are another, and Arabs down in the southeast, and the Roma people. And nor are they proper Muslims. They don't meet the conditions to be a proper Muslim. As the empire becomes less successful militarily, it becomes religiously more conservative. And people look for explanations about why the empire is declining and start to point to communities and say, these people are the reason why, because they are irredeemable, they are unreformable, we're doing our best to try and modernize the empire, and these people are keeping us back. So that's a kind of brief overview. I'm going to finish there because I don't want to take up too much time, but that's a kind of brief overview of Roman populations in the Ottoman Empire, their role in Cyprus and at Lepanto, and then the changes that took place after Lepanto in terms of social status and Ottoman views upon who the gypsies were, the Çingeneler as they would call them, who they were, and how that translates and changes dynamically over time to fall more in line with European notions of who the gypsies are. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Adrian. We were aware that actually Lepanto was not such a glorious battle as it is promoted, so we're following here a Venetian narrative because we're in Venice. But we do it also a bit on purpose. So I think when the Sultan heard that the battle was lost, he said, it's not too bad because I lost my fleet, I can rebuild the fleet, but I cut your arm because Cyprus was such an important colony. So, and Venice didn't take the chance to fight back in the moment of weakness. They were celebrating in Venice very much, and they were doing their propaganda, building churches and making loads of festivities, rather kind of trying to recapture Cyprus, that they militarily wise they should have done, but they always were looking for resources and costs, and so they said, okay, we don't actually want to fight them more because we we stay as traders in good communication, and we show them our power now, but we don't recapture Cyprus. But it is very interesting what you told us historically about Roma in the Ottoman army and about the position of them. I think it is something very acute, rather it here sounds like something from the very past, because also today, in today's wars, Roma are on both sides of the fightings. During the Yugoslavian wars, it was like that, and today in Ukraine and in Russia, it is like that, and it's very bad, terrible experience. In Yugoslavia, you know, it was not used that people could claim asylum in Germany, because if you say I have to fight against my family, that's not a reason for leaving the army. So people don't understand this fact, and it's an ongoing special problem of Romani communities to be on all sides. And we talk today a lot about Cyprus and trying to find a contract about who belongs Cyprus. So actually all those things from the past are still unresolved. But Adrian, thank you very much for joining us on relatively short notice, I would say. But I think you can draw back on your studies and your knowledge that we can hear. And I think it's very important that we have this historic knowledge in the background if we talk about Roma Lepanto. So thank you for this. Now we have, we have people joining our conference from very different positions. Now Manolo Gomez will join us because, and so we're talking in Spanish, and my friend Miguel will translate. I think we have introduced Manolo up in the exhibition as one of the important figures of the contemporary art of Sinti and Roma, and I think Manolo can say about his practice and about his contribution to Roma Lepanto.
Okay. Algo un poquito de cómo ha sido tu contribución a la exposición de Roma Lepanto y cómo has hecho la obra.
Hola, buenos días a todos.
Good morning to everyone.
Y gracias por la vuestra asistencia.
Thanks for your assistance and for the invitation.
Mi colaboración a Roma Lepanto fue difícil.
My contribution to Roma Lepanto was difficult.
Cuando me lo planteó Maurice, tuve que investigar y al principio hice unos cuantos de cuadros y no me salía lo que yo quería, porque no era la fuerza, no tenía la fuerza que yo quería representar. Yo quería representar una cosa distinta.
So when Moit invited me to participate, it was difficult for me because I didn't know where to start from. So I made several proposals, and then I realized that this proposal that I made didn't show the strength that I wanted the work to show.
Yo quería representar los gitanos, tanto de una banda como otra, y la mujer gitana.
So I wanted to depict, to represent the Roma in one side and the other side of the battle, but focusing on the Roman women, the Roman.
Y cuando se lo planteé a varios amigos míos que son artistas, que vieron la obra, y mi mujer me decía, es muy importante Venecia y no vamos a ir a llevar una obra que no esté.
So I consulted my relatives and friends and artists, and they agreed with me that it was an important occasion, this idea of coming to Venice with a work, the important work.
Yo creo que buscar una obra un poco que lo representara tanto a los gitanos de una banda como de otra, a los esclavos que realmente murieron en la batalla de Lepanto, es muy difícil representar, porque representar una batalla no puedes representar todo el mundo.
Yeah, it is very difficult to depict a battle in which slaves Roma people dying, because it's kind of very normal to find representations of battles, but it's very difficult to represent the suffering of slaves in these battles.
En esta época que pasó la batalla, tenía mucha importancia tanto la Iglesia como Venecia, como España, ¿no? Y era representar contra el Imperio Bizantino. ¿Qué representas? ¿Una bandera? ¿Representas otra? No, yo quiero representar a los gitanos. Es un barco y la mujer gitana que va conduciendo el barco.
So the context of the battle, in which we see the importance of the church, of the Catholic Church, the importance of the Spanish monarchy, the Venetians. So what do you choose to represent? What do you use to represent this battle? I decided to depict a Romani battle, a Romani boat, commanded by a Romani woman.
And it's a historical fact.
Which is a historical fact.
And maybe you say something about flowers. Las flores.
Las flores.
Yeah, las flores, sí.
Estoy harto de flores. Estoy harto de hacer flores, de pintar flores, pero las flores es algo muy significativo para el pueblo sevillano.
Okay. So Manolo created these flowers, these paper flowers for the procession, the little structure we carried yesterday. And he said, okay, flowers are important for the Sevillian people.
Para nuestros muertos es una cosa de representación, ¿no? Representa la pureza, el blanco la pureza, el negro es la fuerza para mí, es la fuerza. Y representa el bajo la dureza de los gitanos.
So flowers are important because that's the way we connect with our dead people. So white is the pureness, and black color is the toughness of life. Yeah.
Yeah. Gracias.
So now I would like to call here Evaritzin. So Evaritzin is the scientific head of the National Observatory on Anti-Gypsyism at the Center of Ethnography, Research and Applied Anthropology at the University of Verona. She has participated in national and international projects on the study of Gypsyism and the media representation of Roma and Sinti communities. She currently collaborates with the Istituto degli Innocenti in Florence in training, supervision, and documentation of experiences aimed at the school and social inclusion of Roma, Sinti, and Camminanti, children and adolescents. She also brought together with Luca Bravi, Laciodrom, Storie delle classi speciali per zingari, and again another beautiful book, Attraversare Auschwitz, Storie di Rom e Sinti, Identità, Memorie, Antiziganismo, editore Carpelli. So, grazie mille per essere qui, Eva.
Grazie. Laciodives, buongiorno. Good morning. Cercherò di seguire lo scritto per agevolare il difficile lavoro di traduzione, quindi non parlerò a braccio. In Italia il racconto pubblico di ciò che i Sinti e i Roma rappresentano per la comunità maggioritaria è fortemente radicato in una secolare narrazione al negativo, che sottintende antiziganismo. perché purtroppo è retto su un castello di stereotipi e di pregiudizi, la maggior parte delle volte negativi. Quindi i Sinti e i Rom vengono visti come ladri, come nomadi e non cittadini, ma anche il positivo, come figli del vento, libertari, senza radici, in preda alla passione. Oggi molti giovani Rom e Sinti rivendicano in Italia la propria appartenenza e chiedono di poter uscire dal camuffamento in cui sono stati costretti a vivere per sfuggire all'antiziganismo che continua a colpire le nostre comunità. La negazione identitaria, la ricerca dell'invisibilità è la strategia principale per evitare forme di discriminazione, ma questo genera tanta sofferenza e anche scomparsa sul piano pubblico. Sono una sinta italiana, appartengo alla famiglia dei Lehmann-Reinhard, una grande famiglia di sinti tedeschi che furono vittime della persecuzione nazista in Germania e di quella fascista in Italia. E furono vittime anche di un apparato anti-zingaro che fu attivo a fine Ottocento in Baviera. In questo mio breve intervento cercherò di focalizzarmi sul tema dell'antiziganismo e anche sulle azioni necessarie per la decostruzione degli innumerevoli pregiudizi che abitano le nostre narrazioni pubbliche. Esiste una strada che non passa dalla problematizzazione esasperata dell'essere sinto, dell'essere rom, come se essere sinto o essere rom corrispondesse ad un problema, ma dalla ricostruzione di uno spazio pubblico di narrazioni del presente e del passato. È uno spazio che deve essere abitato dai Sinti e dai Rom. Come fare affinché questo spazio sia comune e non ad uso esclusivo della maggioranza, che fornisce dei significati su come sono e su come dovrebbero essere i Sinti e i Rom? Bisogna entrare in relazione con le comunità Sinti e Rom. Bisogna individuare elementi di cui bisogna parlare, come abbiamo fatto oggi, partendo dalla battaglia di Lepanto. Costruire legami, dare esempi di testimonianza diretta e di una relazionalità che deve essere lontana dal pregiudizio. Oggi purtroppo in Italia abbiamo una pressione esercitata dalla narrazione che è spinta dal pregiudizio e questo negli anni ha silenziato frequentemente le storie familiari, comunitarie e Sinti e Rom. Però queste sono vicende che forniscono alle nuove generazioni il senso dell'esistere e del riconoscersi dentro una storia che non è etnica ma relazionale. Si riconosce piena cittadinanza quando si riconosce la storia dell'altro, ma soprattutto quando si riconosce uno spazio in cui si permette di prendere la parola attraverso il riconoscimento avvenuto. Senza parola si è schiavi degli altri e i Rom e i Sinti sono stati spesso privati della parola pubblica e fin quando esisterà questo squilibrio difficilmente si riesce a contrastare in modo efficace l'antiziganismo. Negli ultimi anni nel nostro paese, in Italia, sprezzanti parole d'odio sono state utilizzate nel linguaggio politico e mediatico nei confronti delle nostre minoranze. Questo in un clima di totale normalità, assuefazione e indifferenza. Nei confronti dei Sinti e dei Rom sono stati invocati campi di sterminio, i forni, l'eliminazione fisica, considerati feccia dell'umanità nel corso di trasmissioni televisive, e questo da parte di rappresentanti istituzionali, da parte di politici, e ancora spesso paragonati ai parassiti e alle zecche. Questo linguaggio si riflette inevitabilmente anche in ambito scolastico ed ha delle gravi ripercussioni sui bambini Sinti e Rom. Nelle testimonianze dei Sinti e Rom di diverse generazioni residenti in Italia si evidenzia come il significato della parola zingaro o zingara sia un elemento che compare proprio tra i banchi della scuola primaria. Diventi la zingara, diventi il nomade, diventi il ladro, diventi lo sporco, e queste sono le etichette che frequentemente vengono utilizzate dai compagni. Questo è accaduto a me, è accaduto anche ai miei familiari. Mia madre e i miei zii si sono percepiti per la prima volta come zingari e non come Sinti, soprattutto a scuola. Erano di quella generazione che ha frequentato la scuola negli anni 60 e ha dovuto frequentare le classi Laciodrom. Laciodrom in romanes significa buon viaggio, ma purtroppo queste scuole non furono un buon viaggio. Furono classi speciali per zingari, classi ghetto, esistite dal 1962 al 1982, per 20 anni, nati dall'idea che i Sinti e Rom avessero un quoziente intellettivo inferiore e che dovevano essere rieducati. Ancora oggi, nel nostro paese, nel 2024, dichiararsi Sinti o Rom non è facile. Spesso non lo si dice perché si temono conseguenze. Alcuni ragazzi Sinti e Rom oggi in Italia cambiano il proprio cognome per non essere riconosciuti. Vivono divisi a metà e questo genera un dolore fortissimo. I termini scorretti continuano a contribuire il sentimento d'odio che si manifesta nei confronti delle nostre comunità. Nel 2019 il Pew Research Center ha segnalato che l'83% degli italiani nutre un sentimento di ostilità e di odio nei confronti delle nostre comunità. 8 italiani su 10. Uno degli effetti più gravi dell'antiziganismo è l'esclusione dei Sinti e dei Rom dalla parola pubblica. Si finisce per vivere in un mondo in cui i significati delle parole, i messaggi e i concetti sono estranei alla partecipazione attiva della comunità. Ci sono spesso anche dei messaggi che riconducono i Rom e i Sinti solo come persone che sarebbero caratterizzati da povertà e da esclusione sociale. E tramite questo costante rimando alla sola povertà è messo a tacere l'elemento essenziale dell'antiziganismo, che esiste invece come odio specifico verso le comunità Sinti e Rom. L'antiziganismo esiste al di là della classe sociale di appartenenza dei Sinti e dei Rom. E per comprendere questo è necessario inserire l'antiziganismo nel suo percorso storico, cioè nella storicizzazione della categoria zingari come categoria di odio specifico, categoria che passa per Auschwitz e ha attraversato Auschwitz conservandosi nel presente. L'antiziganismo è un processo di deumanizzazione, razzializzazione delle comunità Sinti e Rom. Il genocidio dei Sinti e dei Rom è solo uno dei tanti effetti dell'antiziganismo. Se si studia la storia dei Sinti e dei Rom, si scopre che è stata una storia caratterizzata da antiziganismo, ossia da politiche discriminanti, etnocide, mirate all'esclusione e all'assimilazione e all'annientamento culturale identitario delle nostre comunità. Negli ultimi anni l'Unione Europea e diversi contesti internazionali si sono attivati per la costruzione di una memoria, in particolare dello sterminio subito dalle nostre comunità. E quindi anche in Italia sempre più persone conoscono quello che è successo ai Sinti e ai Rom nei campi di concentramento. Ma questo si tratta di un elemento da gestire con grande attenzione e consapevolezza, perché potrebbe essere il segno di un processo di vittimizzazione da riconoscere nel lontano passato, ma restando incapaci di evidenziarla nel presente. Mi ha colpito una volta, in una visita che ho fatto al museo di Auschwitz, l'incontro con una guida italiana, Michele Andreola, che stava descrivendo il blocco 13 del museo di Auschwitz a dei ragazzini, a degli studenti. In quell'occasione questa guida disse ai ragazzi: non possiamo commuoverci di fronte ai Rom e Sinti sottoposti a esperimenti uccisi nelle camere a gas negli anni 40 e poi uscire dalla visita e continuare a diffondere il razzismo su coloro che vivono oggi accanto a noi, perché il passato non si cambia, ma il presente sì. Quindi memoria sì, assolutamente memoria, ma come riflessione su come si sono costruiti e alimentati gli stereotipi di oggi. Oggi la parola antiziganismo in Italia non è ancora conosciuta a livello di opinione pubblica e questo ci dice una cosa importante, ossia che Auschwitz è stato percepito come un aspetto disconnesso dall'antiziganismo del presente. Invece Auschwitz ne è stato un ingranaggio di un percorso cambiato ma non finito. E arrivo alla conclusione evidenziando un aspetto importante della narrazione storica. La narrazione storica è uno strumento essenziale volto all'inclusione, perché narrare significa riconoscere persone e comunità come parte di un contesto sociale comune. Per tanto tempo, soprattutto in Italia, si è sostenuto che i Sinti e i Rom non fossero capaci di narrazione storica e per questo si pensava che le comunità sinte non parlassero della persecuzione. Questo elemento è stato a lungo giustificato come elemento di mancanza di conoscenza della persecuzione subita. E questo avviene in particolare da parte della società maggioritaria, come se la mancanza di testimonianza diretta potesse diventare una scusa per evitare le ricerche d'archivio. In realtà in Italia tanti Sinti e Rom hanno parlato, hanno testimoniato e hanno richiesto giustizia, come Vittorio Tulo Reinhardt, Sinto mandato al confine sulle isole Tremiti, poi tornato a vivere in Emilia-Romagna. Egli racconta il 26 settembre del 1965 di aver trovato in uno storico incontro con l'allora Paolo VI un gruppo di parenti sinti tedeschi che in quell'occasione, in quello storico incontro con il Papa avvenuto negli anni 60, questi sinti tedeschi a decine alzavano le loro maniche e mostravano la matricola di Auschwitz presente sulle loro braccia. Vittorio lo raccontava negli anni 60. Ha raccontato e narrato la propria storia anche Amilcare Taro Corsaro De Bar, sinto italiano, nato nel 27 a Frossasco, a Torino. Ha descritto il suo ricordo più bello quando era partigiano, richiamando alla memoria il Presidente della Repubblica Sandro Pertini come compagno di una lotta per la libertà. Vittorio aveva combattuto come partigiano e aveva contribuito a liberare la città di Torino dal nazifascismo. E racconta di questo storico incontro avvenuto negli anni '80 a Roma, quando, un po' di anni dopo, il Presidente della Repubblica lo chiama per consegnargli il diploma di partigiano. Amilcare racconta: ci siamo abbracciati, io e il Presidente della Repubblica Sandro Pertini, come si fa tra i compagni di una vita. Avevamo entrambi combattuto per la libertà. Amilcare, come tanti altri Sinti e Rom italiani, come altri italiani che non sono né Rom né Sinti, scelsero di unirsi alla lotta partigiana per liberare il nostro paese dal nazifascismo. Un sinto che abbraccia il Presidente della Repubblica in nome della comunanza nata dalla lotta di liberazione. Sono queste storie, queste connessioni, questi intrecci inaspettati ma comuni ad essere interessanti e non la costruzione di un'immagine stereotipata, di una minoranza dipinta o come tutta buona o come tutta cattiva, ma quello che è importante è inserire i Sinti e Rom nella storia. È la storicizzazione effettiva di quei ricordi, di quelle narrazioni, anche Sinte e Rom, a rappresentare lo strumento per costruire spazi di incontro effettivi nel presente. La narrazione Sinti e Rom è stata costantemente presente nella comunità, ma è passata sotto traccia all'esterno. Spesso è stata una narrazione inascoltata, banalizzata e poco valorizzata. Però ci tengo a dire una cosa, la capacità di narrazione delle nostre comunità è sempre esistita ed è stata un elemento indispensabile e costante di trasmissione identitaria e culturale. Le narrazioni del passato hanno due capacità, di costruire due processi fondamentali. Il primo è il processo di consapevolezza che può avvenire dentro la comunità, quando si prende coscienza attraverso il racconto dei propri ricordi, del proprio vissuto e della propria partecipazione a vicende storiche che hanno toccato tutto il resto dell'umanità. Il secondo processo è quello del legame con l'esterno, che è possibile ricostruire partecipando in modo attivo alla narrazione comunitaria, esponendosi in spazi di ascolto in cui gli altri possono percepire le minoranze Sinti e Rom come parte di una stessa storia locale, nazionale, europea e internazionale. Grazie.
Yeah, grazie, Eva. Thank you. Now we will hear some German language, and it also will be translated. So if you didn't have a translation transmitter yet, now you can still take one, because now we will have Romani Rose speaking in German. Romani Rose is the head of the Central Council of Sinti and Roma in Germany, and he's head of the Documentation and Cultural Center of Sinti and Roma in Heidelberg. He's one of the first and most renowned activists and political representatives of the German Sinti in our country and abroad, known for his voice in Romani and Sinti politics. Romani, thank you that you came, and I ask you to the stage.
Buongiorno, guten Tag. Mein Name ist Romani Rose und ich bedanke mich zunächst bei den Veranstaltern, stellvertretend hier bei Herrn Koch und seiner Frau, für die Stiftung, deren Aktivitäten ich für sehr, sehr wichtig erachte. Sinti und Roma haben in Europa eine 600-700-jährige Geschichte. Sinti leben in Deutschland seit über 600 Jahren. Diese Geschichte war immer eine sehr leidvolle Geschichte von Verfolgung und Pogromen, die sich gegen die Minderheit gerichtet haben und die im Nationalsozialismus zu der Endlösung oder zu dem Ziel der Endlösung führte. Weit über 500.000 Sinti und Roma sind im Nationalsozialismus durch die deutschen Faschisten ermordet worden. Es gibt in Deutschland keine Familie, die nicht vom Holocaust betroffen war. Dieses Verbrechen wurde über Jahrzehnte hinweg nicht anerkannt. 1982 hat ein deutscher Bundeskanzler diese Verbrechen anerkannt. Es gab eine Bürgerrechtsbewegung, die auf diese Versäumnisse aufmerksam gemacht hat, die sich mit dieser dubiosen Politik der Einseitigkeit auseinandergesetzt hat, dass man die Verbrechen an den 6 Millionen Juden auf der Grundlage der europäischen Verpflichtung anerkannt hat, aber die Verbrechen an Sinti und Roma eben nicht. 1982, wie gesagt, ist dies anerkannt worden. Seit dieser Zeit hat sich in Deutschland vieles verändert. Sinti und Roma haben heute mehr Möglichkeiten, sich mit dem Antiziganismus auseinanderzusetzen. Der Antiziganismus war die Wurzel für alles Unheil, das Sinti und Roma im Laufe ihrer 600-jährigen Geschichte erfahren haben. Ich will nicht so sehr in die Details eingehen. Ich möchte mehr auf das auch eingehen, was wir hier als Ziel sehen, nämlich wir stehen vor der großen Frage, was ist unsere Identität? Und ich will Ihnen sagen, dass zwischen der kulturellen Identität und der nationalen Identität kein Gegensatz gemacht werden soll. In erster Linie sind wir Bürger des Staates, in dem wir seit 600 Jahren, 700 Jahren in Europa leben. Wir sollten unsere nationale Identität nicht an die Nationalisten, an die Faschisten, die es ja auch heute wieder gibt, verschenken. In Europa und ganz besonders eben in Westeuropa gibt es einen Wert, der die Menschenrechte in den Verfassungen an oberster Stelle setzt. Und in Deutschland heißt es hier zum Beispiel, dass die Würde eines Menschen unantastbar ist. Und alle Menschen haben die gleiche Würde und alle Menschen verdienen den gleichen Respekt. Das ist Artikel 1 in der deutschen Verfassung. Grundlage für diese Bedeutung in der deutschen Verfassung waren die unvorstellbaren Verbrechen der Nazis, die fabrikmäßig Menschen nur auf der Grundlage der Abstammung in den Vernichtungslagern wie Auschwitz, Majdanek, Treblinka, Buchenwald, Bergen-Belsen und so weiter, Jugoslawien, Jasinovac ermordet haben, vom Kleinkind bis zum Greis, genauso wie bei den Juden, und deswegen in der deutschen Verfassung die Würde ist unantastbar. In Artikel 3 heißt es in der Verfassung, dass niemand wegen seiner Abstammung, seiner Religion, seiner Hautfarbe, seiner Herkunft, seiner politischen Einstellung benachteiligt werden darf. Wichtiger Artikel. Trotz unserer 600-jährigen Geschichte in den jeweiligen Nationalstaaten fahren Sinti und Roma auch heute noch Antiziganismus. Antiziganismus heißt Ausgrenzung, heißt Chancenlosigkeit in der Gesellschaft. Und wer von Angehörigen unserer Minderheit in der Gesellschaft einen sozialen Aufstieg will, der muss seine Identität verleugnen, er muss sie verbergen, sonst werden ihm all die Jahrhunderte lang antiziganistischen Klischees entgegengehalten, und die Angehörigen der Minderheit haben wenig Chancen, in diesen Klischees in der Gesellschaft zu entgehen. Und die Frage, die sich uns stellt, wie setzen wir uns damit auseinander? Ich möchte aus meiner Erfahrung sagen, mit zwei Dingen. Der Rechtsstaat hat eine Verfassung, und in dieser Verfassung stehen grundlegende Rechte drin. Westeuropa hat sich aufgrund der europäischen Geschichte einen Wertekanon gegeben, der die Menschenrechte an oberster Stelle setzt. Wir müssen in unseren jeweiligen Nationalstaaten unsere Rechte einfordern. Und wie ich am Anfang gesagt habe, ich will es nochmals wiederholen. Sinti oder Roma ist keine Nation, sondern sie sind nationale Minderheiten, und sie sind nach dem Status nationaler Minderheiten in ihren jeweiligen Heimatländern anerkannt. Die Bundesrepublik hat die Deutschen, Sinti und Roma 1998 anerkannt. Mit diesem Status auf der europäischen Ebene haben wir bestimmte Rechte. Wir haben das Recht unsere Kultur mit Stolz nach außen zu tragen und den Respekt für unsere Kultur einzufordern. Wir sprechen neben Deutsch auch Romanes. Romanes ist eine sehr schöne Sprache, die sich im Laufe der Jahrhunderte natürlich aufgrund der Entwicklungen, die wir in der Gesellschaft haben, weiterentwickelt haben. Wir wollen unsere Sprache behalten, wir wollen sie weiterentwickeln. In den Nationalstaaten, in denen wir leben, gelten bestimmte Gesetze, das bürgerliche Gesetzbuch und das Strafgesetzbuch. Auch das müssen alle Menschen in ihrem Nationalstaat respektieren. Und das Entscheidende ist, dass alle Menschen in ihrem Nationalstaat vor dem Gesetz gleich behandelt werden. Jetzt möchte ich zu dem kommen, was wir hier oben in der Ausstellung gesehen haben in Bezug auf die Kunst. Wir brauchen Leuchttürme. Wir brauchen Menschen aus unserer Minderheit, die Künstler sind, die Sportler sind, weil nur mit den Dingen werden wir in der Öffentlichkeit, in unseren Nationalstaaten positiv wahrgenommen. Wenn Sie die Berichterstattung über Olympia sehen oder im Sport sehen, dann ist ein Nationalspieler plötzlich ein Italiener oder er ist ein Deutscher oder er ist ein Franzose, obwohl er andere Wurzeln hat. Weil wenn er ein Tor schießt, und er ist ein Rom oder er ist Jude, dann wollen die Leute der Nationalstaat haben, dass er die Nationalität hat dieses Landes, für das er in diesem Spiel spielt. Also das heißt ganz einfach, wissen Sie, oder ich will es mit einem anderen Beispiel sagen, bei den Amerikanern gibt es ja auch einen Rassismus gegen die Menschen anderer Hautfarbe. Solange die Menschen auf der Straße rumlaufen, werden sie an vielen Bereichen der Gesellschaft diskriminiert. Wenn sie aber in Sport Leistungen verbringen, als Fußballer, als Boxer oder in anderen Bereichen, dann sind sie Amerikaner. Und genauso ist es in der Kunst. Ich will Ihnen sagen, dass es nicht von Bedeutung ist und wir, ich spreche hier als Angehöriger der Minderheit in Deutschland, wir wollen nicht anerkannt werden in der Kunst oder im Sport, weil wir Roma sind, sondern wir wollen anerkannt werden, weil wir etwas geleistet haben. Ja? Und mit dieser Anerkennung, die wir da erreichen, können wir dann auch nach außen sagen, aber ich bin trotzdem kulturell ein Rom. Ich bin ein Sinto, weil kulturelle Identität kein Gegensatz ist zur nationalen Identität. Und ich will Ihnen nochmal sagen, in der nationalen Identität bekommen wir all die Dinge, die für uns wichtig sind. Unsere Kinder können eine Ausbildung machen, sie können studieren, wir sind geschützt in der Gesellschaft, wir sind Bürger dieses Staates. Menschenrechte bekommt man nicht auf einem Tablett serviert, wie man in einem Lokal auf der Speisekarte guckt, ich möchte das oder das, sondern man muss für diese Rechte eintreten und man muss sie für sich ganz einfach einfordern. Und ich kann nur sagen, dass ich hier der Stiftung für die Kunst von Sinti und Roma, die hier von der Stiftung von Herrn Koch zusammengetragen worden ist und wo wir einen Teil eben gesehen haben, wichtig ist, weil wir brauchen aus unseren Reihen, dass all die Leute, die heute in der Anonymität leben, die Sinti oder Roma sind, die aber nicht sagen, dass sie Sinti oder Roma sind, dass die nach außen treten und sich bekennen. Es gab in Deutschland eine Zeit vor 1933, da war es mit den Juden genauso. Die Juden wollten nicht Juden sein. Sie haben ihre Identität als Juden versteckt, weil in Deutschland, aber auch in anderen Ländern Europas der Antisemitismus sehr groß gewesen ist. Und dann gab es die Zeit, wo die Juden mit Stolz, mit ihrer Identität hervorgetreten sind. Das brauchen wir. Ich möchte mich bei Ihnen allen bedanken. Nochmals bei Ihnen, Frau Koch und Herr Koch, und bei dir. Auch nochmals, Moritz, und bei Ihnen allen. Und ich wünsche mir, dass diese Entwicklung, die ja hier in der Biennale begonnen hat, ja, dass wir diesen Weg mit Kunst nach außen weiter fortführen. Aber nochmals zum Schluss, ich möchte nicht die Anerkennung, weil wir Sinti sind, sondern weil wir Bürger eines Landes sind und weil wir dort ja Anerkennung gefunden haben. Und darüber hinaus können wir auch noch stolz sein, dass wir Sinti sind oder Roma. Danke.
Ja, danke, Romani. Thank you. I think it's a very important position which we have to keep in mind in our doing. We should not fall into the trap of nationalism. If we follow that, we might end where we don't want to end. So now André Raj is coming to the panel. André Raj has participated in numerous international exhibitions over the past few years, among them the first Roma Pavilion Paradise Lost at the Venice Biennial in 2007. Subsequently, he carried out several artistic and cultural projects, including rewritable pictures, which, as part of studio work, using participatory and artistic methods, questions, expands, and critically reflects on pictorial representations in private Roma image archives. Raj is currently in... No, it's not true. Das stimmt nicht, das ist überholt. Raj is head of the documentation department at the Documentation and Cultural Center of German Sinti and Roma in Heidelberg. So he's working with Roma in Heidelberg, and there he's also responsible for the part of the Roma archive, and therefore in the middle of all what we talk about. So thank you for coming. André spricht auch in Deutsch und deswegen gibt es eben die translation for anybody who needs it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Vielen Dank, Lachodilus, auf Ungarisch, Jona Patriane. Ich war vor 17 Jahren schon in Venedig, ja, zusammen mit Daniel Baker, bei der ersten Roma-Pavillon. Und dass wir verstehen, was Roma Lepanto ist, ja, muss ich da zurückreisen. Ich invitiere Sie auch ein dazu. Vor 17 Jahren waren wir ganz junge Künstler bei dem ersten Roma-Pavillon, Paradise Lost, hier in Venedig. Es wurde von der Soros Foundation gefördert, von der Weltbank. Das war ein sehr, sehr großes Ereignis, kuratiert unter anderem von Tima Junghaus. Was wenige wissen, dass ich persönlich war sehr, sehr unsicher, ja, was dieser Pavillon jetzt soll. Es war eine Parallelveranstaltung zu den Biennale. Es wurde anerkannt, es wurde zugelassen, aber dennoch lief es parallel zu den anderen Ausstellungen, Nationalausstellungen. Wenn ich heute den Roma Lepanto anschaue, mit der Thematik, mit der historischen Einbindung, in der italienische-spanische Geschichte, mit dem Vortrag, ja, von dem Professor, mit den historischen Fakten dazu, dann sehe ich eine sehr, sehr große Änderung in diese 17 Jahre. Ja. Eine Einsteigung in die Geschichte von Europa ist stattgefunden mit dieser Ausstellung. Man kann nicht mehr sagen, das ist eine Überlegung, wie kann man Sinti und Roma in den Kunstbetrieb, in den Kunstbiennale hier repräsentieren, sondern vielmehr, es ist eine Einforderung von dieser Historie, von der Geschichte, von der gemeinsamen Geschichte in Europa. Und das ist für mich persönlich eine sehr, sehr große Erkenntnis, was ich erst heute, wir sind gestern angereist aus Heidelberg, was mir erst heute bewusst geworden ist. Und auch, dass Künstler von der Minderheit sich an das kuratorische Konzept sich aneignen müssen, Einführungszeichen. Dass die Gedanken machen müssen, wie positioniere ich mich, ja, als Spanier, wie kann ich über Sklaverei hier sprechen, mit Kunst, künstlicher Sprache. Und es entsteht eine künstliche Intervention, was funktioniert, ja, was wirklich eine Bedeutung, eine neue Bedeutung schafft. Das zeigt, dass diese Entwicklung von 2007 bis zum heutigen Tag in eine gute Richtung geht. Aber vor 2007 gab es schon Ausstellungen. In Ungarn hat es Agnes Tarozzi in den 80er Jahren, 70er Jahren schon angefangen. Diese Ausstellungen wurden noch als naive Kunst verstanden. Ja. Da waren unsere Leute aus der Minderheit als naive Künstler ausgestellt. Und die Thematik war auch sehr häufig gebunden. Wir mussten etwas Spezifisches zu dieser Gruppe, die Vorstellungen, was wir heute als Klischees verstehen müssen, sollten. Lagerfeuer, Wohnwagen, keine Ahnung, das mussten die alles da bringen. Und das ist eine wunderbare Entwicklung, dass wir heute eigentlich eine kulturpolitische Wende geschafft haben. Dazu gehören Ereignisse wie der polnische Pavillon 22 hier in Venedig mit Marco Satamir-Gatas. Und hier kann man auch die Argumentation von Herr Rose ganz klar nachvollziehen. Einige Zeitungen schreiben über Marco Satamir-Gatas, polnische Künstlerin. Berlin, der DAAD, das ist eine deutsche künstliche Austauschdienst, die schreiben Romnia-Künstlerin. Aber was sagt Marco Satamir-Gatas dazu? Sie denkt, das ist eine sehr, sehr wichtige Auseinandersetzung heute mit seiner eigenen Identität als Angehörige der Roma in Polen, aber auch mit einem kuratorischen Konzept in das Pavillon von Polen in das Nationalpavillon teilzunehmen, als zeitgenössische polnische Künstlerin. Und ich denke, darauf haben wir 2007 schon gewartet, auf diese Auseinandersetzung. Da muss die gesamte Kulturlandschaft, die Kuratoren, Kuratorinnen Gedanken machen darüber, wie werden diese Kunstwerke in dem Museum repräsentiert. Ich rede jetzt ganz konkret von Ola Mora. Ola Mora ist eine ungarische Künstlerin, leider schon gestorben, auch Teilnehmer von der ersten RºOMA-Party. Ola Mora gehörte zu dieser naiven Künstlerin, ja, eingestuft, klassifiziert von der ungarischen Kultur- und Kunstlandschaft. Heute gehört sie zu der ungarischen Frauenkünstlerin und wird in der Ludwig-Museum ausgestellt, in der Dauerausstellung. Und ich denke, diese Entwicklung ist sehr, sehr wichtig für uns, ja, zu beobachten. Und ich denke, sich wiederholende Repräsentation, der wiederholende Teilnahme an der venedische Biennale, also eine Biennale in Venedig, kann dazu führen, dass dieser Prozess noch weitergeführt wird. Dass es noch mehr Verständnis dazu gibt und sogar, was ich heute schon gehört habe, dass neue Künstler kommen mit einer Qualität, die einfach von der Guggenheim, von MoMA in New York gekauft werden. Das ist nicht ein leeres Versprechen. Das haben die afroamerikanischen Künstler in der Harlem Studio Museum in den letzten 50 Jahren geschafft. Aber dazu brauchte man diese ständige, wie soll ich sagen, ständige Motivationsschub, ja, dass man dabei ist, dass man das macht, dass man das aufbaut. Und einfach diese Vorstellung, ja, dass man dazu zu der Weltkulturlandschaft, europäische Kulturlandschaft gehört. Und wie Herr Rose gesagt hat, das kann ich nur unterschreiben. In diesem Liga spielt es wirklich, es muss eine Bedeutung haben, der Zugehörigkeit zu den Roma-Minderheit. Aber die Qualität spielt eine noch wesentliche Rolle. Also das wollte ich sehr gut sagen und ich möchte nochmal für die Kuratoren auch gratulieren für die Ausstellung. Und ich hoffe, wir werden nochmal weiterhin solche erfolgreiche Ausstellungen sehen. Danke.
Ja, danke. Super, vielen Dank. Thank you. We have a high-ranking panel today. I'm really happy for all those contributions and different perspectives. Now we have Maria Halavajova from the Netherlands and Croatia. Maria Halavajova is founding general and artistic director of BAK, Basis für aktuelle Kunsten, in Utrecht since 2000. In 2008 until 2016, she was researcher and artistic director of Formal West, which she initiated and developed as an internationally collaborative research, education, publication, and exhibition project, culminating with the publication Formal West, Art and the Contemporary After 1989, co-edited with Simon Sheikh in 2017. Halavajova has instigated and co-organized numerous projects at BAK and beyond, including the series Proposition for Non-Fascist Living 2017, ongoing, very important actual, Futural Vocabulary 2014 to 2017, and New World Academy with artist Jonas Stahl 2013 until 2016, among many other international research projects. She's with us because in 2011, Halavajova organized the Roma Pavilion titled Call the Witness within the framework of the 54th Venice Biennial in Venice, and in 2007 she curated a three-part project, Citizen and Subjects, the Dutch contribution to the 52nd Venice Biennial. In 2000 she co-curated Manifesta 3, European Biennial of Contemporary Art, titled Borderline Syndrome, Energies and Defense in Ljubljana. She also edits and contributes to numerous critical readers and catalogues and lectures frequently on contemporary art. Together with Catherine Romberg, she's founding director of the Transit Next Network, a foundation that supports cultural exchange and contemporary art practices in Austria, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, and Slovakia, and therefore she's in the middle of our Roma cultural field, and I'm really happy you made your way from Utrecht to come to us.
Thank you so very much for this introduction and for the invitation to organizers, Moritz, Manuel, and Luna. Thank you so much for taking care of us. Thank you to the interpreters. I'll try to be gentle. I don't have a written paper, but I will improvise through my notes. I indeed had the privilege to be part of the organizational team of the second Roma Pavilion in 2011, which was a collective effort. It was not my curatorial effort. Very importantly, within my own practice, I have co-edited this publication called RĒOMA together with Daniel Baker, who spoke earlier today. Now I'm very much working somewhere at the intersection of political science and contemporary art practice. And the key question that I'm asking myself within my research and my work is, what is the role of art in the current political situation? And I want to improvise through my notes to touch precisely upon this. Now, I'm going to stay with that question that organizers posed us today, which is, what can Europe learn from its minorities? As said, I will stay very close to this wording and will organize my notes in three parts, picking up a word each time. And I would like to start with the notion of minorities. Now, in the abstract to today's symposium, we're reminded by the conveners that, and I quote, nationalism and racism are on the rise again in Europe. Clearly and specifically in this context, I do not need to stress how the Sinti and Roma are extremely affected by this reality. A reality that is really at odds with the symbolism and proclaimed ideals of Europe. I want to, however, pause briefly around this notion of rising nationalism from today's perspective, even at the risk that I'm going to name more the intuitions than some complete theory. But over the summer month, I indeed live in the Netherlands and come from Slovakia. And over the summer month, I went to Slovakia for a writing refuge and somehow trying to escape the political regime in the Netherlands, which amongst other things, defunded the institution that I founded there 25 years ago. Very much part of the situation here. I landed in Slovakia. You might be aware how in Slovakia the current political elite admires and mirrors the illiberal democracy of in Hungary. I found myself in the middle of quite a turmoil there. I, however, observed one strange thing, and that the nationalism that was defining, or that is currently defining the political situation in Slovakia is very different from ethnic nationalism in the 1990s. For those who are aware of that kind of Central European geopolitics would know that the main enemy, if you will, of ethnic nationalism in the 1990s were Hungarians, alongside the Jews, Czechs, and Roma. Today, Hungarians are the allies, and Slovaks are utter admirers. And the real minorities that are considered to be enemies are ethnic Slovaks who think differently. So these are communities that diverge from the governmental thinking in terms of ideology or attitudes to life. These are sexual and cultural minorities. And to name that, you can talk about artists being the prime enemies of the system, or in the eyes of the system, if you wish. Intellectuals, of course, LGBTQI+, conveniently a woke culture. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that there has been a simple swap between ethnic minorities being an enemy and these other minorities, but there's definitely something that we see that is going on as an extension of the pool of enemies. But we cannot talk about exclusively ethnic nationalism any longer. Now, RĒOMA, the publication I put into my pocket, that Daniel and I co-edited in 2013, and which to a great extent echoed the Roma Pavilion, second Roma Pavilion in 2011, somehow, without me knowing or being able to articulate it, but then in 2013, I think anticipated of this diversification of the enemy of nationalist politics. Specifically, when we articulate it in the title, you already see it, We Roma, the emergence of a we. Of course, this is something we can easily be critiqued of, but the reader inquires into, at that time, contemporary moment through the lens of Roma artistic and intellectual practices, gathering knowledge from the Roma way of life. This is very much theory and practice of Daniel Baker. And in the context of the current political urgencies, as well as the developments in the field of art concerned with social and ecological justice, the publication then asks how this key argument of diversification of the constellation of enemies to nationalism, and we actually can influence the present-day shifts in politics, society, and aesthetics. A quick note: this notion of RĒOMA is envisioned as an artistic imaginary, and it dares to involve Roma and non-Roma subjects, if you will, following Hannah Arendt, political thinker, and her essay from 1943, and Giorgio Agamben, his essay 50 years later, under the same name, We Refugees. And the main argument, specifically in Hannah Arendt, is that refugees, she wrote, are the vanguard of their people. So the proposition here is that the Roma people are the vanguard of humanity. Now, without any romanticization, which are the dangers of this subject, Hannah Arendt really says that they, the refugees in her case, have already experienced and recognized what to others will only become obvious one day, like today, in the era of globalization, the violence, fragility, and historical obsolescence of a territorial understanding of citizenship. And thus, we manifestly made a call under the banner RĒOMA, involving, as I said, both Roma and non-Roma in such a proclamation, and thus implicating in this act of propositional collective thinking society at large, knowing that such an all-encompassing proclamation as we can never fully and satisfactorily explain itself. We opted for a spontaneous, untold version of imagined radical togetherness in the desire for no less than a better world. This brings me to my second out of 3 notes. And that's the word Europe in the sentence, what can Europe learn from its minorities? And thus, what Europe do we have in mind when we're asking this? Because if we were to study what differentiates authoritarian and nationalist ideologies we know from the 1990s from fascism, we can already now assert that with this shift we might have reached what theorists of fascism, Roger Griffin, calls the fascist minimum. The threshold for mobilizing to life the political practice that attracts large masses of voters who have lost their faith in traditional politics by promising them a brighter future under fascist rule. Brighter future, of course, that will follow from utter destruction and humiliation of what and who is or exists. This is quite a critical moment in history, and in the Netherlands, I happen to use an example from Central Europe, but a similar story could be told not only about Austria still staying in Central and Eastern Europe. We all know just a week ago, FPÖ, the Austrian Freedom Party, won the election, that campaigned on the slogan Fortress Austria, advocating precisely an ethnically and culturally cleansed country. A reminder that many other European countries have ultra-right-wing governments today, some of which already form quasi-autocratic, if not autocratic, political matrix, and many, many other ambitions the same. It's telling how Jacques Delors, Dutch politician chairing his Party of Freedom, congratulated Herbert Kickl in Austria, whose ambition, by the way, is to become a Volkskanzler. That's the term Hitler used for himself. And I quote Wilders, "We are victorious. Identity, sovereignty, freedom, and no more illegal immigration or asylum is what tens of millions of Europe long for." If I talk about fascism, I don't want to be really easy about using the term. And I want to say that I use this term in expanded sense, historically, geographically, and substantively, as a composite of multiple large-scale, state corporal, dictatorial, militaristic, and destructive conducts, as much as the micro-authoritarian impulses that colonize our everyday through patriarchy, misogyny, bigotry, xenophobia, racism, and many other culture codes at odds with the values of social and ecological justice. Moritz already mentioned propositions for non-fascist living, which is a series of projects that I have run since 2017 asking precisely the question, what can we, in the field of artistic practices, really do? And that brings me to the other or third last set of notes and words in that pivotal question, what can Europe learn from its minorities? And I think that word learning is already an answer. This is where I see the key potential and perhaps even responsibility of our work. At the intersection of art and Roma community, if you will, as we are speaking in this context of Roma, ours, and I appeal again to the we of RĒOMA, is the task to consider art as a space of public pedagogy. Public pedagogy maybe is not the term that speaks immediately for itself, but I see this as a space or a forum in which the processes of learning take place, not education, learning. Learning not what is, not the knowledges we already have, but actually learning what does not yet exist. That would be the society that is driven by social and ecological justice. I call it a prefigurative learning, a process where we come together with others, and perhaps what's on offer are all those other ethnic and cultural minorities that are now at the vizier, at the target of fascist politics, come together to articulate how things are, imagine together how things could be otherwise, and I concur with this idea of art being a method, with its radical imagination, imagining how the things or how the world could be otherwise. And from that place, together with so many others oppressed by the current system, live those alternative imaginaries as if that was possible. Coming together, I repeat, in, with, and through, and for art, and with Roma, to learn that world we we want, but do not yet have. And leave it here.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. This was up to the point. I think if you come to Berlin, you know you should come around Because right now we have an exhibition called Cruising Utopia, where we show queer art or art of queer Roma artists. And I think we're just talking about that. We talk about what could be, how could we live together, and how could this inspire actually our society right now. That's exactly what we're doing. And I think this way how you interpret it, this learning, is very nice, because learning is something active, and we want that people come in an exhibition and it's central because they have to see actively the people. The stuff which is on the wall is not somehow ready if you don't read it in your activated, central way. And so that's this process of learning, which is an active thing. Thank you for this, and I think it's a very good proposition for thinking about what such a Roma pavilion could be. I think that's brilliant. Thank you very much. So next we have Gennaro. Gennaro Spinelli, introduced by Luna.
So I'm really glad to introduce Gennaro. We know each other since many years. So Gennaro Spinelli is the president of the UCRI, Unione della Comunità Romanes in Italia. He's an activist, a musician. He brings Romani culture with his music and activism in Italy and around the world. So as an ambassador for the International Romani Union for Romani art and culture in the world. So thank you, Gennaro, for being here.
Tady bachtali prawo, vuoi giocare che ci sa capire. In italiano, parole, il mio speech oggi in italiano. E vi ringrazio, ho detto vi ringrazio e vi auguro tanta salute e fortuna. Gute Bach, a Sestibere.
nella nostra lingua, nella lingua romanì. Le comunità romanesi, sull'argomento che oggi trattiamo, che è anche il fulcro di quello che siamo venuti a trattare, Roma-Lepanto, la battaglia di Lepanto. Perché è così importante all'interno della comunità romanese? Perché i Rom e Sinti non la conoscono. L'informazione all'interno delle comunità, solo da qualche anno a questa parte, grazie agli attivisti, grazie alle nuove comunicazioni, grazie agli studiosi che quotidianamente si impegnano per promuovere, per studiare, per propagandare giuste informazioni. Nella battaglia di Lepanto c'erano i Rom, mi dico. Io dico no, non c'erano i Rom. Nella battaglia di Lepanto venivano portati gli schiavi a combattere una battaglia che non gli apparteneva. I Rom erano presi a vogare nelle galere, nelle navi, non come soldati, non come volontari, come schiavi. Schiavi di una società che li teneva ai margini e li valutava solo in quanto problema o opportunità da sfruttare. Guardate, a nome dell'UCLI, dell'Unione delle Comunità Romanesi in Italia, che oggi qua rappresento, posso dire che, visto da questo punto di vista, non è cambiato molto. Sono passati 450 anni dalla battaglia di Lepanto, 1571. I Rom, allora, in Italia, erano presenti già da 150 anni. Sono passati 6 secoli. Siamo sempre stati visti allo stesso modo, valutati allo stesso modo e mai rivalutati. Ancora oggi le comunità romanesi vengono tenuti ai margini della società. Gli stessi Rom non sono tenuti a sapere di se stessi, perché c'è qualcun altro che parla di loro. Oggi potete accendere la televisione in tutto il mondo e guardare programmi televisivi in tutto il mondo, dove tutti parlano di Rom e Sinti. Quasi mai i Rom e Sinti parlano di se stessi. Ed è sempre in maniera negativa. Vedete, questo oggi è un grande problema che stiamo cercando di sormontare grazie alle nuove tecnologie, alle nuove informazioni, alle nuove opportunità. Lasciatemi dire, le seconde generazioni di attivisti, e oggi qui per noi è un onore avere Roma nei Rossi, che è un emblema dell'attivismo mondiale, perché è stato uno dei primi a lottare per un riconoscimento che in tanti consideravano inutile e sbagliato. Lottare per la propria identità, per la propria memoria e il proprio onore, o meglio patire, il nostro onore nella lingua romanese. È quello che ci ha dato lo stimolo, che ci dà oggi lo stimolo come seconde generazioni di attivisti, di artisti, ad andare avanti. Vedete, oggi parliamo di arte, perché l'arte, e ve lo dico da musicista, la mia è un'arte musicale, non visiva, ma l'arte, all'interno del contesto sociale, arriva al cuore, prima che alla mente, e serve a bypassare, ad andare oltre lo stereotipo. Oggi, quando parliamo di arte romanese, in Europa e nel mondo, si pensa solo ed esclusivamente al folklore. Un folklore che non è sempre ciò che ci identifica, è come gli altri vogliono che noi siamo. È come la società maggioritaria pretende che noi ci identifichiamo per rappresentarci. Oggi esponiamo alla Biennale di Venezia, uno dei luoghi più maestosi nell'arte mondiale. Eppure sui giornali non leggerete mai questa notizia. Perché i Rom devono suonare nelle metropolitane. I Rom devono suonare per strada. I Rom devono dipingere per 5 euro in piazza. Vedete, rivalutare l'arte è rivalutare una comunità. Valutare ciò che noi facciamo in quanto arte e non più folklore è ciò che può dare alla nostra comunità un'arma in più. Oggi valutiamo come giovani soprattutto come nelle nuove comunità, le nuove generazioni abbiano applicato una nuova metodologia comunicativa all'arte. Parlo dei social network, parlo delle televisioni, parlo dei nuovi canali di comunicazione. Grazie alla nuova informazione, finalmente, dopo secoli, i Rom possono parlare per i Rom. E non più il Cagiò, il non Romi, per i traduttori. Parlano per noi. Finalmente un piccolo passo è stato fatto. Un piccolo passo, vi assicuro, sudato, lottato, quotidianamente. Non ci è stato regalato nulla. Se oggi siamo qui, dobbiamo dire grazie solo alla grande volontà degli attivisti storici, di chi si è immolato per la nostra cultura, di chi è morto per il nostro Samudaripen. E poi naturalmente chi quotidianamente si prodiga, come gli attivisti. Grazie a Luna che oggi mi ha invitato qui, è un piacere per me poter partecipare con tutti voi e rincontrare grandi artisti come Manolo. Questo è il futuro che noi ci auspichiamo, a livello culturale, a livello artistico, a livello sociale. Auspichiamo una società che sia più inclusiva, ma non lo possiamo fare solo con le parole. Si necessita di nuova informazione per poter prodigare una nuova narrativa. Aprire un nuovo museo, parlare della storia dei Rom e Sinti, far conoscere agli stessi Rom e Sinti ciò che è avvenuto nella storia, per rivalutarli in un contesto sociale che li vede protagonisti e non più solo ed esclusivamente ai margini. Perché come mi disse un grande attivista anni fa, i Rom non sono in Italia da 6 secoli. I Rom hanno fatto la storia d'Italia da 6 secoli. Non esiste nessuna differenza tra la nostra storia e la società maggioritaria, perché siamo la stessa identica cosa. Noi abbiamo scritto pezzi di storia in Europa e nel mondo. Non siamo al di fuori, non siamo una categoria speciale di persone. Siamo esseri umani che hanno costruito la storia quotidianamente e non solo come esseri negativi, perché tutti parlano e parliamo del Samudaripen, dell'Olocausto, delle persecuzioni, ma mai si parla dei Rom in quanto fautori di arte, fautori della nostra storia e della nostra comunità. Pensate alla musica, pensate ai grandi autori europei che hanno preso la musica rom e quotidianamente oggi i Cagè la suonano, senza sapere che è musica rom. Pensate a Brahms, a Mozart, a Schubert. Però i Rom non hanno fatto niente se non qualcosa di negativo. Non è vero. Bisogna rivalutare questo. E queste giornate, l'arte è il metodo migliore, perché arriva prima al cuore. Non passa attraverso gli stereotipi, attraverso che fanno parte del sociale. L'arte è il nuovo mezzo di comunicazione per prendere e pretendere il diritto di essere umani, cittadini e persone. Come diceva Romano Rosa prima, e come ho sempre dichiarato all'inizio soprattutto dei miei interventi, noi siamo prima di tutto cittadini. Io mi sento prima di tutto. Prima di tutto Gennaro, una persona singola, un nome che mi appartiene. Spinelli, facente parte della mia famiglia, avente un retaggio storico. Cittadino italiano, una persona con diritti e doveri di uno Stato. E in più, me signor Rom, io sono Rom, orgogliosamente Rom. Essere Rom non vuol dire avere qualcosa in meno in una società, ma qualcosa in più. Io ti sto parlando la lingua della mia nazione, l'italiano, ma io in più parlo il romanesco. In più ho delle usanze, in più ho una storia, ed è questo che mi rende orgoglioso. Abbiamo qualcosa in più non qualcosa in meno. Ricordiamoci, diciamolo, siamone e andiamone fieri. Perché essere rom oggi vuol dire rivalutare ciò che gli altri dicono di noi per arrivare a quello che realmente siamo. Io vi ringrazio, non vi rubo altro tempo e voglio come ultima parola ringraziare ancora gli organizzatori, i tecnici, i traduttori che oggi stanno lavorando qui, le persone collegate. Ringrazio i professionisti che hanno partecipato, grazie a Romani Rose per quello che fa quotidianamente, che ha fatto per noi personalmente, è un punto di riferimento che vogliamo ringraziare. Davvero basta lei, lascio troppo.
We are, as one could expect, I was really proud. We were really in schedule, but now we are behind, and I just think that there is some coffee there, and if you want, before our next guest is coming, which is Tilia Junghaus, there's also coffee for you, and you know you can take some energy, because I think before our esteemed and admired guest Timea is speaking, you all should be full of energy. So Timea said, okay, I see you're only very small. If we just have like a 3-4 minutes break to take some coffee, because we're really, yeah, we need to be really wait when you are there. And maybe the less people are in the Bamboo networks, the stronger is our internet. So please use your mobile network and not the Bamboo network, because then we lose Zoom, which we just had. Very boring. So.
So just so one, so we now we're going to have let's say one person.
Yes, we keep going. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 6 people still have it.
So it was supposed to be right? No, just to understand. Of course, I just want to understand.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic what it said. I'm really curious how we
Riuscivo ad aprirla.
So, yeah, please come back to your seats. I don't want to let Tibia wait any longer. Tibia, I'm sorry, but I think it's better if we have this little break because it was very intense today and what we heard. So I'm honored to introduce Timea Junghaus. Timea Junghaus is an art historian and contemporary art curator. She started in the position of executive director of the European Roma Institute for Arts and Culture in September 2017. Previously, Junghaus was research fellow of the Working Group for Critical Theories at the Institute for Art History at the Hungarian Academy of Sciences 2010 until 2017. She has researched and published extensively on the conjunction of modern and contemporary art with critical theory, with particular reference to issues of cultural difference, colonialism, and minority representing. She's completing her PhD studies in cultural theory at the Lorand University in Budapest. In recognition of curatorial activities, Junghaus received the Kairos European Cultural Prize from the Alfred Töpfer Stiftung in 2008. Her curatorial works include the Roma component of the Hidden Holocaust exhibition in the Budapest Kunsthalle 2004, Paradise Lost, the first Roma pavilion at the 52nd Venice Contemporary Art Biennial in 2007, the Archive and Scholarly Conference on Roma Hip Hop in 2010, the Roma elders and the public intervention for the unfinished memorial to the Sinti and Roma murdered under the National Socialist regime in the frame of the 7th Berlin Biennial in 2012, the reconceptualization Roma resistance exhibition and education program in Hellerau, Dresden 2015, and the Goethe Institute Prague 2016. She's curator of the visual art sections for ROM Archive, digital archive of the Roma, funded by Kulturstiftung des Bundes 2015 to 2018, which I mentioned today already. Junghaus was the founding director of Gallery 8, a Roma contemporary art space in Budapest 2013 until 2017, and the winner of the 2014 Catalyst Contemporary Art Award of Transit, Hungary, and the 2014 Otto Pankok Prize awarded for the Roma Foundation of German writer and literary Nobel laureate Günter Grass. So yes, I was about to add this, but it was coming last but not least, the Otto Pankok Prize. So Timea, thank you for joining us and welcome to our symposium.
Thank you, Moritz, for the introduction and these partners, allies. It's an honor to contribute to the conference. In the last presentations, I've been having technical difficulties, the image goes, but the online participants stayed with me. So please raise your hand, Daria and Brun, if you can still hear me, but you see that the image goes, that means that we lost the conference. We can have a little private conference in that case. I try my best to stick to the timeline. I see that we have a delay. I first would like to congratulate the artists of Roma Lepanto, Luna De Rosa, Manolo Gomez, Jan Lebar, who passed away and cannot be with us today, Brun Moraes. We haven't met in person. I haven't been able to ask you how to pronounce the name properly. Alfred Ulrich and Carmen Barley. We have had a long cooperation, but I would like to say hats off. This is another amazing resistant effort that fits beautifully into the cultural history of Roma presence at the Venice Biennale. I am honored and I feel privileged to be invited by you today. Also, of course, congratulations to the curators and the owners of Heidika Stiftung. Moritz, congratulations for the commitment, the diligence that you put into changing the Roma world and the world together with us, being an amazing partner and ally to the cause. I will start with a little insight into the current, what I call cultural war. Roman Rosa, Maria Klavayova already extended on this, but let me give you a bit of the area reading of the situation. Since 2017, I have been in the area together with a large membership, and the membership is currently 141 Roma and non-Roma individuals and organizations. And this membership really changed the way that we think about how to curate and how to create Roma events, Roma products in the public space, in the field of arts and culture, film and media, knowledge production and academia, remembrance of Holocaust. And many of you who contributed to the conference are also members, just like the Heidika Stiftung, members of the extended large membership of ERIAC. So I am describing the common experience of all of us coming from Barbarita Academy membership. The economic equality has fueled anger and mistrust towards liberal democracy, progressive causes, and minorities in general. The basic democratic framework at both the cultural and political levels has been taken for granted and is now facing existential threats. In particularly, those aimed at promoting minorities, such as the Roma, are not a priority on the political or funding agenda. Meanwhile, social media and election-driven things have increasingly shifted toward far-right and xenophobic nationalism. This trend deeply impacts organizations such as ELIA and artists' future and survival as we rely heavily on public funding. At the community level, the cultural war has affected Roma communities through the growing influence of religion and the far right. Increasing conservatism, particularly from these groups I mentioned, has overshadowed the influence of Roma art. ELIAC's focus at the moment has been on mainstream, non-Roma, or other minority issues, leaving few alternatives for Roma communities themselves. As a result, our achievements are not really visible or appreciated within our own communities, and its cultural programs do not resonate with the lived realities of compact Roma communities. This is why we are gearing up for a new area strategy, counting on your contributions as always, to really make a change in our communities. I would like to say that while I started the presentation with a very negative reading of the current political and cultural, to reflect on a moment of celebration, not just a celebration that while the area board decided that there is basically no way to change the structure of the Venice Biennale and the mindset of the leaders of the Venice Biennale, at the same time, we are experiencing outstanding success in the context of Roma presentation in arts and culture and cultural diplomacy. I would like to extend on both statements just a little bit. In order for a Roma project to be visible in the Biennale system, an applicant must pay the collateral participation fee, the collateral event fee. This is the only way one ends up in the Biennale, as an event. And the collateral fee is 35,000 euros plus VAT. Then Roma, of course, as a nation without territory, do not have a space in Venice. So we start with the rental fee and the collateral fee. The rental fee, as we know, is also extremely expensive. So we can say that Roma start with an approximate negative of about 100,000 euros, even without starting the curatorial work, the concept, the shipping, the wrapping, and artist fees. So this is a significant backlog, a significant disadvantage that Roma, the largest minority of Europe, starts with within the framework of the many of you know that every year from the membership area extended delegation, and I know that Miguel is contributing to our conference, Miguel Angel Vargas. He was part of the delegation. Ethel Brooks was part of this delegation before. And the delegation addressed the leadership of the Biennale in order to commit to change the structure and recognize the largest European minority as a legitimate participant of the Biennale, receiving similar recognition as other participants. And this hasn't taken place. So since the delegation tried to achieve ELIAC approach to Biennale many times, the ELIAC board, which is the Council of Europe, the Open Society Foundations, the Alliance for ELIAC, and delegated members from the Federal Foreign Office Germany, decided that it isn't time any longer for ELIAC to make such a large investment of the Venice Biennale. And at the moment that the ELIAC board made this decision, a miracle had has happened, and we had not one, but three outstanding representations at the Venice Biennale. On its top, the Caritas event, which had a tiny grant, tiny support from within area, but delivered a beautiful exhibit at Palazzo Bello. Another outstanding attempt, a resistant ally of ours, is the Other Session, an event curated by the Council of Europe for the 75th anniversary of the Convention of the Council of Europe. And all this at the Venice Biennale, two actual pavilions instead of one area initiative, really called large attention to Roma participation even this year, to the Roma cause. I also would like to mention that it is an incredible year for Roma artists around Europe. We know that after traveling around in Germany, Salma Salman having an exhibition at Gropius Law is now featured both at the Zurich Ecke, but also in the Schönkunsthalle as a large-scale exhibition by Salma Salman. And we know that the pavilion of Marco Mirkatas, which was also a historic first, mentioned many times today by different presenters, the exhibition of Marco Mirkatas at the Polish Pavilion has traveled from Germany and is currently featured also with additional artworks at St. Yves Tate, and has several other plans for this year, even like the Maastricht Nepal opening. We also know that Liliane Lebas is nominated for the Turner Prize, and Liliane Lebas is an exhibiting artist of the first Roma Pavilion. It is an incredible year for Roma visual art. We could say that, with last year's exhibition of Robert Kadrich and Belvedere, Austria, we are really in the top 10%, top tier of visited visual artists who are speaking from within this European subjectivity, what it means today to be a European. Roma artists are really speaking from within this subjectivity with outstanding sensitivity and really gain the recognition of the art scene. So while the situation, the political situation is extremely sad, we managed to find resistant partners and allies around Europe, and we continue in this resistance with reading about cultural history. As I said, I try to stay on schedule, but I do want to recall this cultural history that with so many of our outstanding contributions. I think that in the past few years, since the Roma Archive, we really put a lot of effort into calling together conferences of art historians and examine the Roma contributions to art history from the Modern Renaissance all the way to 19th century modernism. We examine this contribution and we examine the image of the Roma and the depiction of Roma in the history of art. Many of us contributed to these scientific. And the most we have achieved in examining the Roma image in 19th century modernism and discovered the parallels of how in the panoptic regime, in the visual system of modernity, the Roma basically became the panels of Asian and African primitives of the Western art context. So we see how Central and Eastern Southern European artists had traveled to their closest so-called settlements and used Roma models as their so-called, in quotation mark, primitives. And our inspiration and our contribution to art history is significant and requires much more efforts. We all know the moment of claiming authorship and how this started in the 1971 Roma Congress. But we need to put more attention on how this claim of the Romani nation has created our movement that we are still living today, the movement in which we are claiming the authorship, we are reclaiming the right to represent ourselves. And I did say the notion of the Romani nation. So since 1975, when the anthem and the Romani flag was, and authors together said, our products are not any longer the products of ethnographers, Wunderkammer owners, not any longer the product of anthropologists and sociologists. They are the products of us, the artists of Roma origin. This is also the moment when we think about this nation. And this idea of the Romani nation as a transgressed, homogeneous nation that recognizes the diversity within what it means to be a Roma today, that recognizes every single subgroup and recognizes every single dialect, and gently opens towards a universal participation. Its transgression shall be truly. I think about the nation today. And all this comes with the 1971 context. I would like to recognize my colleagues in this cultural history, André Raj, Angela Puzzi, Ioanni da Costa, Germán de Matache, the feminist writers who helped us to unlearn what was taught to us and start getting inspiration from post-colonial and decolonial writers in order to conduct this cultural turn in our writing processes of ourselves. The first Roma Pavilion also channels into these efforts of reclaiming and decolonizing and delinking from the colonial matrix. Of course, following the Roma Pavilion exhibitions, my favorite, and I'm sorry for being a bit subject with this, my favorite uptakings were Damian and Dineen Yemaz's Save European Home projects, which toured in Austria and Berlin and cut into this very complex and ambivalent public space and called attention to the Roma body and political quality of the Roma assembly in the public space. I would like to continue with the outstanding PhD, this cultural history that I am recalling now, with the outstanding PhD of Daniel, that really transformed the way that we think about the objects within the Romani home and the objects within the Romani exhibition space. Several exhibitions followed, and even today, these gypsy aesthetics that are first recalled within the thesis of Daniel Baker are an important topic within the Roma visual arts context. I think that the exhibition Futuroma, curated by Daniel Baker, has, that we think about the Romani knowledge about the universe, the Romani knowledge about the planet and how we relate to the planet, and has really changed the way that we think about Roma cultural heritage, because it enlightened us that Roma cultural heritage shall also endorse the intangible, the knowledge of how to transfer knowledge to generations within the community, how to transfer the knowledge about our healing practices and our community practices. So Futuroma was a turning point in 2009. And I already mentioned this important turn that Salma Salman conducted with taking our attention to performances and performative acts, together with Robert Gabish, who continues to shed light and bring attention to the role of Baha'is space and in the exhibition space. In 2022, the exhibition of Margot Jardin Gattas and the historical exhibition at the Biennale, being the first artist represented in a national pavilion, also supported by ERIAC and contributors, from within the ERIAC Barbary Academy, joining the opening, and the community joining the opening was a festive celebration of not just her contribution, but also this history of Roma contribution at the Venice Biennale. I would like to continue by mentioning that it really has become that there is no European narrative without Roma contribution. And this document 15, the Roma invitation exhibitions, the considerations of how flamenco is not any longer just Spanish cultural heritage, but is a form of Roma resistance, an art form born out of our own resistance history, has become completely obvious for many European museums and leaders of biennales, manifesta. They are all open for and aware of and sensitive to the invitation and the necessity of the inclusion of Roma voices. Positive events in Roma recognition have taken place since 2007 or 2000. I started with 2007 as the first Roma pavilion at the Venice Biennale. We must also say that despite this resistance that we have conducted, often mentions the question of the museum. In several national contexts, the real opportunity for solving the issue of preservation, conservation, and visibility, but also the issue of having a safe place for our community to celebrate. Going to have a national museum. This is only possible in the past 4 decades of our activism and the Roma cultural movement in the Czech context. And I'm not sure if you know, but currently the Roma Museum in Brno is under attack, and it is possible that they will lose public funding. So I try to advocate in the name of ERIAC and ERIAC membership that the cause of this museum is of utmost importance. The cause of our memorial sites is of utmost importance. I would like to address that this vicious circle, that which is, you don't need museums because it is a ghetto of Roma culture. You need to be presented in majority spaces. And then once we approach majority spaces and we would like to request space, the space is not available because Romani voices are extremely political. This is a vicious circle that forces Roma into continuously approaching majority organizations and approaching public officials, but ending up with rejections continuously. It is important that we need to unite in this discourse and claim that there is power in the assembly of Roma and non-Roma in the public space. There is power in the contribution of Roma creative individuals, and they shall gain finally visibility, most importantly, respectful infrastructure. Because without this respectful infrastructure, we are the losers of the cultural war that continuously scapegoats Roma and attacks Roma with racism and anti-Gypsyism and forces Roma into a position of the inhuman. So it is not my intention to close with a negative statement. I believe that what we have achieved is outstanding. I believe that every opening speech, every contribution, every poem scripted on a small paper, every artistic contribution exhibited anywhere in any of our private spaces of assemblies is already a contribution to a cultural history that we diligently, committedly, wholeheartedly, with love, drive together. And I'm so happy that I can be part of the celebration that is bringing us together to remember this cultural history that we will write together. Thank you for this opportunity. Once again, congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Timea, for this long history, which already happened since 2007, and we promise we fight on. Yes, thank you, Timea. Thank you for all your power, investment of energy. Now we have Daria Kanti coming. Daria, you're there, I see you. So we have an artist statement of one of the contributing artists, Daria Kanti. And now I will be slow with the curriculum because I was very fast at Timaeus because it's full of different honors and things. So that's why I was fast. I'm now more slow. Daria Kanti is a visionary artist originating from Uzbekistan. She embarked on her creative journey with a profound commitment to pushing artistic boundaries. Specializing in visual art, she skillfully intertwines her cultural roots with the feminist narrative, crafting pieces that echo both resilience and rebellion. Kanti's artistic evolution is marked by a relentless exploration of themes surrounding femininity and societal norms. Through her career, she has honed a distinctive style to convey stories often overlooked. Her paintings and drawings serve as a visual narrative that challenges perceptions and invites viewers into a world where empowerment and creativity coalesce. Daria, I think the text you sent us, so I think we have the text also, which is there.
Hello everyone. First of all, I'm glad to be part of the RºOMA exhibition and this conference. I would like to take this time to tell a little bit of my work that I presented in this exhibition and meaning behind it. So I will be short. In the heart of my work is on oppression, as I intertwine the suffering of Roma women with the efforts of the Battle of Lepanto, while the battle itself is a significant historical event, serving as a symbol of broader oppression. My focus is on something more timeless, the enduring spirit of Roma women across cultures. The resilience of Roma women in the face of adversity is a testament to survival and strength. In my work, stories emerging like a current water, ever-flowing, shifting, yet constant. Those narratives reflect not only the historical struggle that have endured, but also the ongoing challenges that we face today. Reflection not only the struggle of the past, but also the contemporary challenges the Roma women continues to face. And through the work, I hope that we can engage in the dialogue and perform actions about those living experiences, acknowledging the weight of the history, while also recognizing the present fight they have for justice, dignity, and recognition that we aim today. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Daria. Thank you, and thanks for sending us the text ahead. You have contributed a beautiful artwork to this exhibition, and actually it fits very well this palace, but it has such a different meaning. I think from the beauty, it's very well here.
Thank you for having me.
I invite Susanna.
Yeah, again, I'm really honored to have Susanna Jovanovic. She is an amazing Romani free researcher and thinker who promotes a construction of knowledge about Roma and Sinti through their point of view. Thank you.
One technical thing, please don't use the bamboo wireless, because if you send a message, it will destroy our Zoom.
Bartalo Janavkes Bokhale Ali Molivtumin. Ajukereni Oshanze che di capte se chiara, tatemo tapso. Ok, volevo tradurre. Buongiorno, so che avete fame, ma cercherò di essere breve, ma insomma, abbiate pazienza. Allora, grazie intanto per questo invito veramente e per aver organizzato questo evento, perché è molto importante. È molto importante perché il tema, una mia sintesi odierna del tema di oggi è quale epistemologia c'è sui Rom, cioè come si costruisce, come Gagé, la società maggioritaria, costruisce il sapere sui Rom. Una cosa importante è quella che voi avete portato oggi, che è quella del punto di vista artistico, la costruzione di un nuovo sapere collettivo attraverso il punto di vista degli artisti Rom e Sinti, e quindi interno, che però ha una particolarità in più, oltre che avere il punto di vista. Io ho fatto una mia sintesi oggi, è quello di avere scardinato, di avere rotto, diciamo, il tetto di vetro di quella che è, concedetemi questa brutta espressione un po', la censura della capacità di espressione dei Rom, cioè attraverso l'arte i Rom e i Sinti hanno, diciamo, rotto questo tetto di vetro e si sono presi lo spazio per una libertà di espressione. È fondamentale. Grazie. Detto questo, io mi introduco in questo tema di oggi attraverso il tema dell'empowerment delle donne Rom e Sinte, cioè come possono contribuire alla costruzione di questo nuovo sapere le donne Rom e Sinte. quali vie possono utilizzare per costruire un nuovo sapere sulla loro comunità, sulla loro identità, su loro stesse, avere libertà di espressione. Allora, innanzitutto bisogna capire che il tema dell'emancipazione, dell'empowerment, della libertà della donna all'interno della comunità Rom e Sinta è un tema molto presente. Forse passa un po' sotto traccia, diciamo così, a livello collettivo, ma è molto presente, perché all'interno le Romiane discutono di quali siano le vie e quali siano soprattutto le condizioni femminili all'interno di alcune comunità e della necessità di cambiare alcune situazioni. Detto questo, però, un elemento con il quale noi dobbiamo sempre far conto quando affrontiamo il tema dell'empowerment femminile è come le donne Romia e Sinte sono state rappresentate storicamente dalla letteratura europea. È un argomento molto importante perché la rappresentazione fatta dalle donne Romia e Sinte attraverso un punto di vista maschile è, diciamo così, orientativamente anti-zigano, quindi è molto importante tenerle presente. Perché questo? Perché la rappresentazione delle donne rom e sinte nella letteratura è poi diventato, noi parliamo di narrazione, no? Dell'importanza della narrazione, è diventato un discorso pubblico, una narrazione pubblica. La narrazione pubblica è diventata narrazione politica. Cosa intendo per narrazione politica? Intendo dire che questa narrazione che è stata presentata ha influenzato le relazioni nei rapporti con la collettività delle Romia e partendo, diciamo, da questa rappresentazione nelle relazioni anche di genere in qualche maniera, perché ricordiamoci che il primo